Chapter 11:17. Of course. Commander Meng, can we drink in the military camp? Knight Sorrow looked at Meng Dan and asked. Yes. Even if you drink too much, you can just circulate your energy once the order is given. But when you drink, you cannot act shamelessly. You are not allowed to circulate your energy, Meng Dan said with a smile. That's good. I have gotten to know everyone today. Knight Sorrow is really happy. I will not say anything. Then, let me toast to my brothers. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands towards Meng Dan and the others. Good. Come, go to the warehouse of the 1st Brigade and get more wine. Bring more wine. Wu Jia shouted at the patrolling soldiers in the distance. He patted the wine jugs and said, I brought wine today because I felt that you all would drink tea. That would be boring. So, this wine is for myself. The soldiers were very fierce. A group of patrolling soldiers directly brought over 20 jugs of wine. Knight Sorrow, this commander really admires you. We cannot simply ask about your matters, but the commander said that you have commanded battles before. He wants to learn from you. Later on, this commander wants to ask you for advice. After drinking a few bowls of wine, Meng Dan said. If I say that the battles I experienced in the past were small skirmishes, that would be disrespectful to my former brothers. But the low-level world cannot be compared to the supreme world. Knight Sorrow still wants to learn from all of you, Knight Sorrow said. Your words are honest. I, Wu Jia, like it. Wu Jia took his wine bowl and raised it towards Knight Sorrow. As they drank, everyone became more casual. Meng Dan and the 10 captains also knew what to ask and what not to ask. After drinking for 4 hours, Meng Dan brought Wu Jia and the other captains who were drunk and dizzy and left. Although they all caught Knight Sorrow and forced him to drink, they were all dizzy. Knight Sorrow was still fine. Knight Sorrow's willpower and time attribute had entered the king's realm. His body had changed, and his body was almost filled with crystals. How could he get drunk when he drank? This guy is too much of a beast. He's strong, and his alcohol tolerance is also ridiculously high. Wu Jia, you're no match for him, said Kuan Ji, the captain of the 2nd platoon. Knight Sorrow is indeed not using his energy, but you guys don't know this. His body is tyrannical, and the strength of his weapon is astonishing. Naturally, his alcohol tolerance is high. It's impossible to make him drunk. Black Jia's tongue was a little big. The next day, when Knight Sorrow was practicing as usual, Meng Dan came. You sure are hard-working. Let's go. Let's move to another place. Last night, this commander arranged a new tent for you. Your subordinates will also have a place to stay, Meng Dan said to Knight Sorrow. Thank you, Commander. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands. You're still so polite. In our massacring God's territory, when there's no war, we're all brothers. We drink and chat casually. When there's a war, we just have to abide by the war orders. Like now, you can call me Big Brother Meng. Meng Dan said with a smile. Soon after, Meng Dan brought Knight Sorrow to a new big tent. It was made from the skin of an unknown demonic beast that Knight Sorrow didn't know. On both sides of the big tent, there were smaller tents. Those were the accommodations for his subordinates. After arranging for Knight Sorrow's accommodations, Meng Dan brought Knight Sorrow to the soldiers' training ground and watched everyone cultivate. After going to war, no one knows if they can come back alive. Therefore, it's especially important to cultivate diligently. Usually, the captains, platoon leaders, and commanders will give some pointers to the soldiers. Some martial arts that aren't restricted by the sect will also be imparted. If it's convenient, you can also give some pointers. Meng Dan said to Knight Sorrow. I will. Knight Sorrow nodded. In the following days, Knight Sorrow familiarized himself with the members of the massacring God's territory. If not, he would soak in the training ground and cultivate with everyone. Knight Sorrow wasn't stingy in giving pointers. Gradually, Knight Sorrow became familiar with everyone. Meng Dan was very happy with this situation. What he was most worried about was that Night Sorrow was young. Coupled with his strength, he wouldn't fit in with the group. Being young and hot-headed was a common problem for many cultivators. Night Sorrow was a little over 100 years old. In the world of cultivators, he was too young. Qin Leitang also frequently looked for Meng Dan to understand the situation. Sometimes, he would also take the initiative to tell Night Sorrow some of the history of the Thunderbolt Army. This helped Night Sorrow integrate into the Thunderbolt Army. Meng Dan and the rest didn't know about Night Sorrow's situation. However, Qin Leitang was clear about the importance of Night Sorrow to the Green Phoenix Army and to the Qing Emperor's empire. He also admired this kind of determined and ambitious young man. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Night Sorrow knew that he might have to leave and report to the Green Phoenix Princess residence. He reckoned that he wouldn't be able to push away that guard captain. Before leaving, Night Sorrow planned to do something for the Brothers of the Massacring Gods territory. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow drew out the joint attack formation diagram. Since he was the deputy commander, he had to fulfill his responsibility. After drawing the formation diagram, Night Sorrow found Meng Dan and explained the joint attack formation diagram to him. Very good, very exquisite. Our Massacring Gods territory's battle formation is a ring-shaped battle formation, a triangular battle formation. Compared to your joint attack formation, it seems too crude. Meng Dan excitedly patted Night Sorrow's shoulder. I might have to go to the princess residence to be the guard captain. I will try to push this off. I reckon that it will be hard to push it off. I can't stay here for a long time. I can't do much for the brothers. Night Sorrow said. I also hope that brother will always be here. However, the commander's words are battle orders. We must obey. If you have time, come over. Big brother's tent is here. My home is below the heaven's edge. Many of our Green Phoenix Army's generals have their homes below the heaven's edge. Big brother will also help you arrange a private residence later. Meng Dan knew that Night Sorrow was going to be the guard captain of the Green Phoenix Princess Guards. That day in the commander's tent, Green Phoenix Princess had already mentioned it. He also knew that this was a rare opportunity for many people. However, Night Sorrow really wasn't willing to do it. Carrot Original First Post Night Sorrow's prediction was very accurate. After a month, Zhua Tingyin came. He was under Green Phoenix Princess orders to let Night Sorrow take up a post in the Green Phoenix Princess residence. After bidding farewell to the Thunder Commander, Meng Dan, Wu Jia, and the others, Night Sorrow brought Hong Yi and Lanning back to the Green Phoenix residence with Zhua Tingyin. After letting Hong Yi and Lanning rest, Zhua Tingyin brought Night Sorrow to the main hall of the Green Phoenix Palace to meet Green Phoenix Princess. How was your month in the Thunder Army? Sitting on the main seat, Green Phoenix Princess, who was meditating, opened her eyes. Very good. The brothers in the Massacre Gods leader are very easy to get along with. The guard captain of Her Highness the Princess is too important. I'm afraid I'm not up to the task. Night Sorrow cupped his hands and said. You idiot. The vice commander of the Thunder Army is very good. However, how can it be compared to the guard captain of Her Highness the Princess? Not to mention the difference in freedom, the guard captain can do a lot of things without anyone asking. Do you understand? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Zhua Tingyin blew his beard and glared at him. That's right. You need to cultivate. You have a world behind you. Therefore, a lot of things require time. Your post in my princess residence is indeed more casual. Green Phoenix Princess said. Chapter 11:18. Thank you, Your Highness. Night Sorrow understood Princess Qing Luan's intention at this time. She wanted to give him more space. This command token is the same as the Thunder Army's command token. When it lights up, it means that Your Majesty is looking for you. This command token is also the command token of Qing Luan Palace's guard captain. It will be more convenient for you to move around the Qing Emperor's dynasty. Also, if you have any problems in the 9 regions world that you can't solve, You can come find your majesty at any time. Princess Qinghuan handed a command token to Knight Sorrow and said. Before leaving the massacre god's domain, Qin Leitang gave Knight Sorrow a command token. When the Thunder Army gathered, the command token would vibrate and light up. The command tokens were all made with special methods. There was a mother-child formation inside. Knight Sorrow understands. Knight Sorrow nodded towards Princess Qinghuan. Bai Ling, bring Knight Sorrow to his residence. Then, bring your majesty's personal guards to meet with Knight Sorrow. Princess Qinghuan said to her maid Bai Ling. Bai Ling bowed towards Princess Qinghuan and brought Knight Sorrow to a small standalone building on the left side of Qinghuan Palace. The size of the standalone building was about the same as Knight Sorrow's residence in the city in the sky. There were artificial mountains and lakes in the small building. The scenery was very beautiful. This is the residence Her Highness arranged for you. When you are not in the barracks, you can stay here. When the barracks summons you, you can directly take the princess residence's teleportation array. It is also more convenient. I will bring the guards over. You two can meet first. Bai Ling brought Knight Sorrow to this residence and left. Leisure residence, this small building's name is not bad. Young master, I have always been worried about a problem. That is, how long will we serve the Qing Emperor's dynasty? It can't be a lifetime, right? Lan Ning said. She had always wanted to ask this question. However, it was not suitable to talk about it in the barracks. No, in the Qing Emperor's dynasty's army, the service time is 1,000 years. In other words, after 1,000 years, you can propose to retire. The divine Shao monarch mentioned this before. He was like this in the Green Scale army. He served for 3,000 years. 1,000 years was because he made a promise with the Green Scale Crown Prince. The other 2,000 years of military service in exchange for some cultivation resources. Knight said. That's good. If we are lucky, there won't be any wars for 1,000 years. Red smiled. Red E. Merit can be exchanged for resources, and resources can be exchanged for resources, and can exchange merit can be exchanged. And merit can be exchanged. To merit can be used. Yi Shang understood some things. The Azure Supreme the Arch dynasty had a vast territory and had the same top-notch forces on 3 sides. The 2 sides often had wars. One side was the Red Emperor's country. The other side was the Dark Abyss. The Dark Abyss was different from the other top forces in the world of reincarnation. They were all creatures of darkness. It was similar to when Knight Sorrow was in the Eastern Xian domain. However, the master of the Dark Abyss was very domineering. He was called the Death Dominator. He comprehended the death attribute and death will. He was one of the top forces in the world of reincarnation. He was on the same level as the Qing Emperor and the Red Emperor. The Red Emperor's country and the Qing Emperor's dynasty were the same. They were very powerful and had many subordinate worlds. This kind of power dispute caused many wars. It was also very cruel. However, because they restrained each other, the Qing Emperor, the Red Emperor, and the Dark Dominator, such as the Sky Dominator, would not ask about the development of the forces under their command. They would not ask about it unless it threatened the life and death of their own forces. The monarch would not easily participate in the war, which made the situation more stable. That is to say, after 1,000 years, we will have freedom. We can freely choose to withdraw or continue to serve. But in this way, will the Qing Emperor's dynasty continue to protect the 9 Heavens World Group? Red asked. Normally, it won't. If we have great contributions to the Qing Emperor's dynasty, then it's another matter. It mainly depends on whether our 9 Heavens World Group has the ability to protect ourselves. Knight Sorrow said with a smile. You came to serve the Qing Emperor's dynasty because you don't want the 9 Heavens World Group to suffer because of you. The trouble you caused, you have to bear it. The development of the 9 Heavens World Group has nothing to do with you. Red said. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Knight Sorrow exhaled and said. At this time, Bai Ling brought Qing Luan's personal attendants. They were iron 1 to iron 4 and silver 1 to silver 4. Princess Qing Luan had many guards under her command. It could even be said that the 2 guards at the entrance of Qing Luan Palace were at the peak of the intermediate king. Bai Ling brought Princess Qing Luan's personal guard when she went out. Knight Sorrow was actually the captain of the personal guard. The only genuine, for he's a thief. Version Knight Sorrow politely invited them to sit down and drink tea. My guard captain is actually just a title. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. When the time comes, I'll have to ask brothers and sisters for guidance. Captain, you're too polite. You're now the vice commander of the most elite army in the Green Phoenix Army. We all know and admire you. We all live around here. If there's anything, Captain can just call us. Silver 1 said. Iron 1 also nodded. They were the small leaders of the male and female personal guard teams. If they recognized Knight Sorrow, it was equivalent to the entire personal guard recognizing him. Okay, I'll live here when I have nothing to do. Everyone can come over when you're free and talk about cultivation and battle. We can all improve together. Knight Sorrow said. Silver 1 and Iron 1 stood up and brought the few people beside them to bow to Knight Sorrow. They were originally worried that an overbearing boss would appear, but Knight Sorrow's attitude made them feel a lot more at ease. After the personal guard left, Hong Yi and Lanning tidied up their living quarters. The main pavilion was naturally where Knight Sorrow rested and cultivated. They lived on both sides. After calming down, Knight Sorrow refined pills when he had nothing to do. He refined another batch of Yun spirit pills. After refining, Knight Sorrow gave Lanning a batch of pills. Take them back to Aunt Fei. Also, tell North Star to come over. I want to help her upgrade her weapons and armor. Knight Sorrow kept his promise in his heart. If he didn't solve it, he would feel pressured. Lanning took the pills and Knight Sorrow's guard leader token and left. The price of using the teleportation array was very high. Normal cultivators wouldn't be able to afford it. It was measured in Saint Spirit stones. However, Knight Sorrow was rich now and had already given it to Hong Yi and Lanning. When Knight Sorrow calmed down, Princess Qing Luan and Zhua Tingyun arrived at the Qing Luan Army's Thunder Corps camp. Greetings, Commander. Qin Leitang, Meng Dan, and Tang Hu bowed. What are you guys arguing about? Princess Qing Luan heard the argument before she even reached the tent. Commander, it's like this. Knight Sorrow gave Massacre God Leader some combination array diagrams. Tang Hu wanted it, but Meng Dan didn't give it to him. Now he's confused. Qin Leitang said. Chapter 11:19. How is the effect of the joint attack formation? Princess Qing Luan asked. The effect is very strong. It is much stronger than the ring-shaped battle formation and the triangular battle formation, Qin Leitang said. The joint attack formation, in our Qing Emperor's dynasty, only the Qing Emperor's army has it. That was researched by my father. The other armies, even the Green Qilan army, do not have it. Bring your majesty to take a look, Princess Qing Luan said. Qin Leitang and the others brought Princess Qing Luan to the training grounds of the Massacre God's territory and watched the soldiers train. At this moment, the soldiers of the Massacre God's territory were training in pairs. It was a sparring match between the soldiers and the captains. The soldiers used the joint attack formation. Although their cultivation was not high enough, they could still fight against the leaders who had higher cultivation than them. 3 to 6 people joint attack, very good. After watching for a while, Princess Qing Luan returned to the large tent of the Thunder Army. Commander, I feel that since it is a method to increase one's strength, we should let the brothers master it. Tang Hu bowed towards Princess Qing Luan. Tang Hu, it is right for you to think about the brothers under you, but the crux of the problem is that Knight Sorrow is the deputy commander of the Massacre God's territory. He only needs to be responsible for the soldiers of the Massacre God's territory. If everyone wants it, the commanders of the Imperial Army and the Black Armored Army all want it. Wouldn't that be a mess? Princess Qing Yuan looked at Tang Hu and said. I think so too. The soldiers of the massacring gods' territory are lucky to be able to learn this joint attack formation. They are lucky to have Yi Shang as their vice commander. The others can't ask for anything. Of course, they are all soldiers of the Thunder Army. Qin Leitang voiced his opinion. Let's not talk about this matter anymore. Don't make things difficult for Night Sorrow. Princess Qing Yuan made a decision. Tang Hu could only nod his head. In the Qing Yuan army, Princess Qing Yuan's words were the highest order. After that, Princess Qing Yuan and Zhou Tingyun went to the training grounds to take a look. With this joint attack formation, the battle strength of the massacre god's territory will increase by a lot. Zhou Tingyun nodded his head as he looked. Meng Dan, tell the massacre god's territory soldiers that this joint attack formation cannot be leaked. If anyone leaks it, they will be executed without mercy. Princess Qing Yuan gave the military order to Meng Dan, who was following behind her. Yes. Meng Dan bowed and said. After that, Princess Qing Yuan and Zhou Tingyun left the Thunder Army. After Princess Qing Yuan returned to Qing Yuan Palace, she was stunned for a moment. Then, she quickly walked into Qing Yuan Palace's main hall and bowed. Qing Yuan greets Imperial Father. Why has Imperial Father come to daughter's place? What's wrong? Can't Imperial Father come and see you? Where have you been? Qing Emperor sat at the head of the table and said while drinking tea. I just went to the Qing Yuan army's encampment to deal with some matters. Qing Yuan bowed and said. Sit down, and talk. What happened in the military camp? Qing Emperor looked at Qing Yuan and asked. It's Night Sorrow. He taught the massacre god's territory soldiers the joint attack formation. The commanders of the other territories also want it and have already dealt with it. Oh right, I haven't told Imperial Father yet. Night Sorrow relied on his own ability to become a vice commander. Qing Yuan sat down and said with a smile. Vice commander. Imperial Father remembers that the lowest commander in Qing Yuan army is an intermediate king, right? Can he be a vice commander? Qing Emperor stroked his beard and asked. Qing Yuan army is in the Qing Yuan army. The Qing Yuan army uses a challenge system. Father knows this. After he challenged the strongest team leader in the Qing Yuan army, he challenged the strongest team leader. That team leader was a 5-star sovereign, but he was defeated by him. Therefore, I made him the deputy commander. He has commanded the War of the Realms before, so he has no problem with his intelligence. The deputy commander position is suitable for him. Qing Yuan reported Yi Shan's situation to the Qing Emperor. Interesting, a bit interesting. You make the arrangements. This person is very important to our Qing Emperor's dynasty. We must make the best use of him and not neglect his cultivation. Alright, just pretend that Imperial Father never came. Qing Emperor stood up and left Qing Yuan Palace's main hall. Night Sorrow was in the small courtyard in front of Leisure House. He waved Sky Splitter and cultivated his battle skills. Right now, his energy and willpower were restrained, constantly releasing the battle skills he had grasped. After leaving Qing Yuan Palace's main hall, Qing Emperor waved his hand. After the golden crown on his head turned into a purple crown, he walked to the side of Leisure House's small courtyard with his hands behind his back and watched Night Sorrow cultivate his battle skills. Because he was too engrossed in his cultivation, Night Sorrow didn't notice Qing Emperor's arrival. Only when Hong Yi, who made tea, coughed did Night Sorrow wake up from his concentration. Seeing Qing Emperor, Night Sorrow cupped his hands and slightly bowed. Night Sorrow greets Elder. Young man, you're not bad. It's already hard to grasp a few types of force exertion techniques, and it's even harder to combine them. If you can combine the time attribute and the space attribute, that would be even more impressive. Actually, the compatibility between the time attribute and the space attribute is a leap. The space attribute is a leap for space, and the time attribute is a leap for time. You can try to use the two attributes to support each other. The time attribute supports the space attribute, and the space attribute supports the time attribute. Supporting each other will speed up the compatibility of the two attributes. Qing Emperor said. Night Sorrow thanks Elder for your guidance. Night Sorrow bowed again. Haha. The key is that it's helpful to you. Qing Emperor said with a smile. Come. Elder, have a seat. Have a cup of tea. Night Sorrow invited Qing Emperor to sit down, and then poured a cup of tea for Qing Emperor. Not bad. You're quite experienced in making tea. Qing Emperor took a sip of tea and said. I'm not used to walking around. I've never seen Elder in Qing Yuan Palace. Night Sorrow filled Qing Emperor's teacup again and said. Like you, I like peace and quiet. I don't usually go out. Today, I'm thinking of moving around. Qing Emperor sized up Night Sorrow. After drinking 2 cups of tea, Qing Emperor stood up and was about to leave. I'm an outsider in Qing Yuan Palace. I don't know anyone or have any friends. If Elder has time, please come and visit. Night Sorrow stood up and said. Okay. Qing Emperor nodded. After leaving Leisure House, his body flickered and disappeared. In Qing Emperor's palace, Qing Emperor and Xian Daozi were playing chess, but then they shook their heads. Your Majesty, your state of mind is unstable. Is something wrong? Xian Daozi asked. I suddenly want to take in a disciple, but I haven't thought of how to deal with it yet. Qing Emperor put down the game in his hand and said. Chapter B plus Section 1, that's a good thing. Your Majesty has only taught Qing Lin, Qing Wan, and a few other princes for so many years. You can take in a disciple to relax your state of mind. Xian Daozi said. His hands were shaking. Big deal. This was a big deal for Qing Emperor's dynasty. Qing Emperor's disciple had a very high status in Qing Emperor's dynasty. His Majesty was equivalent to a prince or princess. A disciple was half a prince. But I'm worried that I won't be able to teach him. That child controls the dual elements of space and time. I've dabbled in space, but not time, Qing Emperor said. Night Sorrow? Perhaps you can't teach him time, but isn't your mastery in other areas what he needs? Fourth Watch. Chapter 11:20. I need to think about this carefully. It's very important to both him and me. The Qing Emperor shook his head. He admired Night Sorrow, but he didn't want to affect his development because Night Sorrow was doing very well. It is indeed very important, but a disciple with potential is not easy to find. The Red Emperor and the Dark Dominator both have excellent disciples, said Xian Daozi. Xian Daozi was the Qing Emperor's imperial divination master, and he was also a good friend of the Qing Emperor. He could say things that others didn't dare to say. Indeed, this emperor is inferior to them in this aspect. Sandalwood was not bad back then, but her state of mind was not good enough. One's state of mind and temperament have a great impact on a cultivator's final achievements. The Dark Dominator cultivates the Tao of Death, and it's enough for him to take in a disciple with a ruthless temperament. The Crimson Emperor is the same. It's easier for them to take in disciples, but it's harder for this emperor, who cultivates the Tao of Gentlemen, to take in disciples. You understand, Your Majesty, said Xian Daozi with a smile. I know some things. I have so many princes, but none of them can stand out. Isn't that strange? Qing Wan knows that he can't suppress him, and he doesn't dare to. The Qing Emperor shook his head. There were some things he didn't want to say. The Qing Emperor's imperial dynasty needed a strong crown prince. Xian Daozi didn't say anything else. The Qing Emperor was a smart person. Although he didn't ask much about the imperial dynasty, he knew everything. Night Sorrow is still rising. If I take Night Sorrow as a disciple, Qing Lin and the other princes will definitely suppress him. It's not good for his growth. I can't beat Qing Lin. After all, he's my crown prince. Let's wait. The Qing Emperor made his decision. Night Sorrow's life was very stable. He went to the Massacre God territory, and nothing happened. He returned to the leisure house. Longing brought Bei Xing to the leisure house. Night Sorrow, although we haven't been apart for long, it feels like we haven't seen each other for a long time, Northstar said with a smile as he looked at Night Sorrow. I think you want your king's weapon. Come on. I happen to have some time, so I'll help you. Night Sorrow extended his hand to Northstar. All right. After Longing told me, I brought the materials. Northstar took out the long sword and gave it to Night Sorrow, and handed a storage ring to Night Sorrow. Taking out the crafting furnace, Night Sorrow knocked on it and began to upgrade the Northstar's clear moon sword. In order for a Saint Ruler artifact to be upgraded to a king artifact, the first requirement was the materials, then the level of the spirit array inside the sword. The level of the spirit array was also the most important. For original edition, after entering the king's realm and increasing his soul power, Night Sorrow's clone in the Heaven Sealing Hall had been studying the spirit array, and his understanding of the spirit array was getting deeper and deeper. When Night Sorrow was upgrading Northstar's clear moon sword, the Qing Emperor came in wearing a plain robe. Night Sorrow asked Hong Yi to serve him tea. After apologizing, he continued to refine the clear moon sword. It took Night Sorrow a few days to upgrade all the materials and spirit array inside the clear moon sword. After signing, Night Sorrow waved the clear moon sword and handed it to Northstar. King's artifact, ah. Thank you, Night Sorrow, Northstar said happily as he held the clear moon sword. I promised you that I could refine a king's artifact, so I will definitely help you upgrade your weapon and armor. Maybe you won't be able to use the full power of the clear moon sword now, but you will in the future, Night Sorrow smiled. Then, Night Sorrow bowed to the Qing Emperor and said, I'm sorry for neglecting you, Elder. It's nothing. Actually, there's another way to make weapons and armor. You're using the 1,000 Hammer 100 refinement technique. Have you ever thought of trying the 1,000 Hammer 100 refinement technique? Inscribe some spirit arrays with each stack. When you hammer again, be careful not to damage the spirit arrays. This way, after the 1,000 Hammer 100 refinement technique, the weapon or armor will be able to incorporate more spirit arrays. The space for the spirit arrays will also be larger, the Qing Emperor said as he looked at the clear moon sword in Northstar's hand. Taking a deep breath, Night Sorrow bowed deeply to the Qing Emperor and said, Thank you, Elder, for teaching me. It's good that it's useful to you. Actually, cultivation, alchemy, and weapon forging are not the same path. Many times, cultivators often have a flaw and misconception, which is that they walk the same path until the end. This way, they might be able to walk to the extreme, but if they go too far, it will be a vertical thinking. In the future, try to think horizontally. Having an additional path to choose from may allow you to walk further, the Qing Emperor said as he looked at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow fell into deep thought because the Qing Emperor's words had given him a lot of inspiration. Looking at the pondering Night Sorrow, the Qing Emperor smiled and left. He was very happy that he had given Night Sorrow some inspiration. After a while, Night Sorrow woke up from his deep thoughts and asked, Where's that elder? He left. Night Sorrow, who is this expert? Northstar asked. I don't know. Maybe he's an expert in the Qinghuan Palace. How can there be no experts around Princess Qinghuan? His insights and thoughts are very terrifying. His words are very simple, but they are the truth. With his guidance, I'll be able to take fewer detours, Night Sorrow said. You're lucky. In fact, many experts will be interested in teaching you when they see someone like you. This is also karma. Because when you grow up, you'll remember the kindness of teaching you. This is karma, Northstar said. But they don't necessarily want to repay you. This is called love, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Then, Night Sorrow helped Northstar upgrade the armor again. After listening to the Qing Emperor's guidance, Night Sorrow's forging became much easier. It was also much easier because the space for carving and embedding formations had increased by a lot. After a few days, Night Sorrow also finished upgrading Northstar's armor. Northstar was very happy. In fact, Knight Sorrow was also very happy because the Qing Emperor's guidance was very good. After North Star's matter was finished, Knight Sorrow asked Lanning to send him back. He continued to study battle techniques. On this day, when Knight Sorrow was practicing battle techniques, the Qing Emperor came. I haven't seen Elder for a few days. Knight Sorrow misses Elder very much. I'm very grateful for Elder's guidance. How can I thank Elder? Wine? Good wine. Knight Sorrow smiled and greeted the Qing Emperor. Good. Let's drink. I haven't done this in a long time. Bring out the good wine. The Qing Emperor sat down and waved his hand. It's a bit awkward. I think this wine is good because it's from my hometown. It's brewed by my wife. I don't think Elder will like it. Knight Sorrow said embarrassedly. He knew that the elder in front of him was unfathomable. He must have a very high position in the Qinghuan palace. He must have drunk all kinds of good wine. Bring it out. I'm not picky. Let's drink. The quality of the wine isn't that important. The mood is the key. The Qing Emperor raised his chin at Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow stood up and brought out 2 jars of azure blood wine. He then opened the jars and pushed them in front of the Qing Emperor. Pouring a bowl of wine, the Qing Emperor drank it in one gulp. You're talking nonsense. This wine is very good. Although it's not as delicate, it has a bit of wildness. Fine brewed wine is like a puddle of clear water. Your wine is like the wind. It has a wildness that Qing Emperor's imperial wine doesn't have. As long as Elder likes it. Knight Sorrow thanks Elder for teaching me. Knight Sorrow stood up and bowed to the Qing Emperor. Chapter 11:21. It's good that you can understand. Sometimes pointers are like playing the lute to a cow. You can understand everything. That's the point of pointers. The Qing Emperor shook his head. After drinking 2 jars of wine with Knight Sorrow, the Qing Emperor left. After returning to the Qing Emperor's palace, Xian Daozi poured a cup of tea for the Qing Emperor. Your Majesty, you drank? That's strange. I'm happy. I'm really happy. I've decided to find an opportunity to take him in as a disciple. The Qing Emperor took a sip of tea. Does he have a good temper? Xian Daozi asked. He has a good personality. At such a young age, he's already accomplished things that ordinary people can't. However, he's not impetuous at all. Cultivating the way of a gentleman requires a magnanimous spirit, breadth of mind, and personality. He has all of that. The Qing Emperor gave his evaluation of Knight Sorrow. Then we'll find a time to do it, Xian Daozi said with a smile. No, this needs to be properly arranged. If I only take in one disciple, he'll become a target for others. I'll announce later that I'm taking in a disciple and set up a few thresholds. Those who pass will become nominal disciples. After passing a few more tests, they'll become my legacy disciple. The Qing Emperor stroked his beard. All right. I'll pretend I don't know anything about this, Xian Daozi said with a smile. The Qing Emperor looked at Xian Daozi and said, then I'll leave it to you. Set up the thresholds. Oh, and go find out about Knight Sorrow's situation. If you make a mistake, don't worry, Your Majesty. I'll take care of this properly. The thresholds will block everyone, but not him. Yes, they'll block everyone, Xian Daozi said, bowing. He knew that the Qing Emperor was serious, so he had to do this properly. Otherwise, the Qing Emperor wouldn't give face to his old friend. There's no need to be too deliberate. Taking in a few nominal disciples isn't a big deal. Consider it a good karma, the Qing Emperor said. Good karma. If His Majesty's novitiate disciple is successful, then this is Knight Sorrow's good karma and good karma. Everything really is predestined. Xian Daozi chuckled and left. Could it be that this guy can really gather luck Dao? Qing Emperor tapped his fingers on the table and fell into deep thought. He knew that if it weren't for the appearance of Knight Sorrow, he wouldn't have the idea of accepting disciples. He planned to accept a few nominal disciples because of Knight Sorrow's influence. Then, a huge news spread throughout the Qing Emperor's dynasty. Even the world of reincarnation got the news. The Qing Emperor wanted to take in disciples. However, the threshold was very high. First of all, one's cultivation had to be at least king's, and one's age had to be less than 1,000 years old. Next, one had to be a heavenly adept artificer. These three requirements made many people feel bitter. If one didn't meet the requirements, it would be very difficult to become a king within 1,000 years old. There were many geniuses in the world of reincarnation, and some of them could meet the requirements. However, the Qing Emperor's requirement was not to become a king within 1,000 years old, but to become a heavenly adept artificer within 1,000 years old. Not to mention this, it was even more difficult. In addition, there were only 10 places. No matter how many people there were, the Qing Emperor would only choose 10 people based on merit. If there were less than 10 people who signed up, then all of them would stay. If there were more than 10 people, then there would be a cruel selection. Knight Sorrow also got the news, which made him very shocked. Knight Sorrow, this requirement is not a problem for you, right? Red Coat said excitedly. Knight Sorrow thought for a moment and said, this requirement is very suitable for me. I also want to, but I have to tell my master that I want to join another sect. I have to ask for the permission of my master and the elders of the Medicine Valley. You're thinking too much. In the cultivation world, many people have different masters. You're not betraying the sect, Lonning said. I know, but it's still appropriate to report to my master. Knight Sorrow shook his head. He knew that Lonning was telling the truth, but it would be disrespectful if he did not tell Yu Yangyu. That's fine too. With the realm teleportation formation, it's convenient for you to travel back and forth. Red Coat knew that it was very difficult to change Knight Sorrow's mind. At this moment, in the Qingluan Palace's main hall, Princess Qingluan was twirling a teacup in her hand. Zhuo Tingyun stood aside and said, Princess, this matter will have a great impact on the Qing Emperor's dynasty. It could even change the situation. That's right. In my father's eyes, there's no difference between a disciple and a child. There are some things that I haven't seen, but I know that back then, senior brother Sandalwood's position in the Qing Emperor's dynasty was far above all the other princes. Therefore, as long as the disciple's character and talent are passable, then it's hard to say what position he will have in the Qing Emperor's dynasty, Princess Qingluan said. Zhuo Tingyun nodded. He was very clear about some things. Sandalwood back then was an example. Actually, my father might be taking in a disciple because of someone, Princess Qingluan said. Princess Qingluan had a high position in the Qing Emperor's dynasty. This was related to the fact that she was loved by the Qing Emperor, but it was also related to her own abilities. After thinking about it, Princess Qingluan had some ideas. Because last time, she felt that the Qing Emperor was interested in Knight Sorrow. Princess, just pretend that you don't know about this. His Majesty is a smart person. No one can go against his will. His will is the will of the Qing Emperor's dynasty, Zhuo Tingyun said. Your Majesty understands. This is not a bad thing. Maybe he cares about the Crown Prince and the other princes. Princess Qingluan interlocked her fingers and stretched her waist. That was the truth. Qing Lin was also touched. Because once the Qing Emperor took in a disciple, it would be a big deal. Back then, when Sandalwood was still around, he was suppressed. After Sandalwood went crazy, he appeared and gradually rose to the top. After Knight Sorrow greeted Princess Qingluan, he took the teleportation array and returned to the sky profound world. Then, he went to the Tianding Gate and arrived at Danding Peak. Seeing Knight Sorrow return, Yu Yangyu and the others were very happy. This was because they had not seen Knight Sorrow for a while. They also knew about Knight Sorrow's situation from the Tianding King. They knew that Knight Sorrow went to the world of Samsara for the 9 Firmament World Group. Master, it's like this. The Qing Emperor of the world of Samsara is taking in a disciple. I want to take a look. Night Sorrow said to Yu Yangyu. This, you can do as you see fit. If you want to have high achievements, then you need the guidance of a great teacher. As your master, I really did not fulfill my responsibility. I can't block your path. Work hard. Yu Yangyu nodded to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow will always be Master's disciple. I will always be the disciple of the Medicine Valley. Night Sorrow bowed to Yu Yangyu, Hua Yunpeng, and the others. Only one original, one of them. He was all pirated carrot, however. Hua Yunpeng and the Great Elder avoided it. Other than Yu Yangyu, they did not have the qualifications to receive Night Sorrow's bow. He did not stay in the mysterious sky world, nor did he go to Chia City. Night Sorrow returned to the Qingluan Palace. He was now waiting for the registration date. On this day, when Yishang finished cultivating, the Azure the Arch arrived. Night Sorrow poured a cup of tea for the Qing Emperor. Qing Emperor is taking in a disciple. Don't you have any thoughts? The Qing Emperor looked at Night Sorrow and said. Yes, in fact, I really want to get guidance from the elders. Night Sorrow looked at the Qing Emperor and said. The Qing Emperor had guided him twice. Night Sorrow really benefited a lot. You won't be disappointed. Chapter 1122. You won't be disappointed. Qing Emperor nodded towards Night Sorrow and then left Leisure House. Qing Emperor told Night Sorrow that he wouldn't be disappointed. In fact, he wasn't disappointed in his heart either. The main reason was because of Night Sorrow's attitude. Qing Emperor understood that Night Sorrow knew that as long as he participated in Qing Emperor's disciple recruitment, he would at least be a nominal disciple. However, Night Sorrow was still very respectful towards him. He even said that as long as he asked, Night Sorrow would accept his guidance. He even said that he wouldn't participate in Qing Emperor's disciple recruitment ceremony. Night Sorrow was a bit disappointed. He really hoped that Qing Emperor would be willing to continue guiding him. That way, he could give up on participating in Qing Emperor's disciple recruitment ceremony. Soon after, under Hong Yi's reminder, Night Sorrow went to Qing Emperor's palace to sign up and participate in Qing Emperor's disciple recruitment ceremony. After signing up, Night Sorrow stayed in Massacre God's territory for a few more days to observe the soldiers' cultivation. Now, Night Sorrow wasn't only recognized by the large captains and captains, the ordinary soldiers also recognized Night Sorrow. Everyone's combat ability increased by a lot. What did this mean? It meant that after entering the battlefield, their chances of survival increased by a lot. After staying in Massacre God's territory for a few more days, Night Sorrow greeted Qin Leiting and Meng Dan before returning to Qingluan Palace. General, Vice Commander Knight is a bit over 100 years old. His cultivation is a 2-star king. I don't know if he is a weapon refiner. If he is, then he can definitely participate in His Majesty's disciple recruitment ceremony. Meng Dan looked at Night Sorrow's figure leaving through the teleportation formation and said. He is a king-level weapon refiner. This is recorded in the information Her Highness showed this general. Qin Leiting said. Then will he still stay in our Thunder Army? This subordinate admires him. There are too few cultivators like him now. Meng Dan said. He should. He shouldn't be someone who gives up halfway. I also don't want to let this guy go. Qin Leiting exhaled and said. Everyone in the Thunderbolt army knew that Thunderbolt Qin was an old-fashioned person. It was hard for him to approve of someone. However, once he approved of someone, he would treat that person seriously. Night Sorrow stayed quietly in Leisure House, waiting for the Qing Emperor's apprenticeship ceremony to begin. Half a month later, the Qing Emperor's apprenticeship ceremony began. The venue was the Qing Emperor's palace square, and the host was Xian Daozi. Everyone in the Qing Emperor's imperial dynasty knew that Xian Daozi was under the orders of the Qing Emperor. Many times, Xian Daozi was the one who arranged everything for the Qing Emperor. The Qing Emperor's recruitment of disciples was a big event. Not many people signed up, only a dozen or so. However, many people came to watch because they all wanted to know who could become the Qing Emperor's disciple. Even if it was just a nominal disciple, it could change one's fate. Night Sorrow was among those who signed up. Everyone who signed up had to go through a test. Although many people's cultivations and ages could be seen at a glance, there were some secret techniques that could hide one's age. Xian Daozi seriously checked everyone who signed up. The Qing Emperor's disciple was very important, and it would have a great impact on the Qing Emperor's imperial dynasty. If someone from the Qing Emperor's imperial dynasty used a secret technique to break in, Xian Daozi would never be able to wash away this humiliation. Xian Daozi tested everyone. The oldest was 900 years old, and the youngest was Night Sorrow, who was 120 years old. The one with the highest cultivation was the 900-year-old man, who was a level 3 king. After testing everyone's age and cultivation, Night Sorrow and the others went to their designated seats. Next was the equipment refining test, and anyone who wasn't a heavenly master equipment refiner wouldn't be able to pass. Night Sorrow had just sat down when he felt hostility. Turning his head, Night Sorrow found that the 900-year-old level 3 king was staring at him with eyes full of hostility. Night Sorrow smiled. He knew that this was hostility born of competition. He didn't think it was necessary at all. The Qing Emperor wasn't recruiting a disciple. What are you smiling about? You just got into the king's imperial dynasty ahead of time. Do you think that's enough? The man's eyes were full of a fierce murderous aura. Then you have the right to do so. Night Sorrow was helpless against such hostile gazes and words. If you're not convinced, then let's fight. The black-clothed man stood up. The black-clothed man's name was Bonehead, and he came from Darkbone Mountain. He was the young master of Darkbone Mountain, a first-class force under the Qing Emperor's imperial dynasty. When he came to participate in the apprenticeship ceremony, the Mountain Lord of Darkbone Mountain said that the Qing Emperor couldn't instruct all the in-named disciples wholeheartedly. Among all the in-named disciples, the Qing Emperor would only instruct the most outstanding ones. The youngest one was the biggest threat, so Bonehead saw Night Sorrow as a rival. He even planned to kill Night Sorrow if he had the chance. Night Sorrow, don't look for trouble, but I'm not afraid of trouble. If you want to fight, then I'll fight with you. Night Sorrow stood up. Okay, quiet down. Xian Daozi slammed the table in front of him. After making Bonehead and Night Sorrow quiet down, Xian Daozi tapped the table with his finger, and the next round of the equipment refining test was carried out. After that, Night Sorrow and a dozen other people began the equipment refining test. The materials were on the table in front of everyone. They were all beginner king grade materials. After the examination, the applicants had to use these limited materials to choose the most suitable one, and then refine a king grade weapon. As long as they succeeded, the refined weapon would belong to them. It was also a disguised reward. Night Sorrow thought for a moment, and felt that he could refine a pair of boxing gloves. Ever since the Azure Claw gloves were destroyed, Night Sorrow hadn't used boxing gloves. His hand skills were very profound, and he needed boxing gloves very much. After having an idea, Night Sorrow began to forge. He used the 1,000-fold 100 refinement technique, and he was very familiar with it. Night Sorrow had refined quite a few king-grade weapons, and he was very familiar with the carving of formations. There were no problems. Xian Daozi, who was watching from the main seat, nodded as he watched. He was also worried. If Night Sorrow really had a problem refining, he wouldn't be able to explain it to the Qing Emperor. In fact, this disciple recruitment was prepared for Night Sorrow alone. After Night Sorrow finished refining, he engraved the word Shang on the claw gloves. Then, he placed the gloves on the table and took 2 steps back. The Qing Emperor, who was drinking tea in the Azure Sky Pavilion, nodded as he drank. Everything in the Qing Emperor's palace was within his scope of investigation, and he was very satisfied with Night Sorrow's performance. Among the dozen or so people who participated in the refining, only Night Sorrow was the calmest. His emotions were also very stable, so the quality of his weapon was also the highest. As for the conflict between Night Sorrow and Bonehead, the Qing Emperor felt that Night Sorrow had handled it very well. Everyone had a temper. If you endured being bullied, then it wasn't true. Not long after Night Sorrow finished refining, Bonehead also finished refining and returned to his seat. His gaze was still on Night Sorrow. He knew that Night Sorrow definitely had a spot in the Qing Emperor's list of registered disciples. What he wanted to do now was to make Night Sorrow lose face. Bonehead felt that if he made Night Sorrow lose face before Night Sorrow entered the Qing Emperor's eyes, then the Qing Emperor would no longer care about him. Soon, the time set by Xian Daozi was up. Only one person had successfully refined a weapon. At this time, Bonehead stood up and walked to the center of the field. He pointed at Night Sorrow and said, "Very good. Let's fight and see who is the best." Chapter 11:23. What are you doing? You're very strong, but can you be invincible? Xian Daozi frowned at Bonehead. He was starting to get annoyed. He knew exactly what Bonehead was thinking. Night Sorrow stood up, but didn't move. If he stepped up now, it would be the same as slapping Xian Daozi's face. "Senior, I feel that this is an opportunity to prove myself. No matter if it's me or him, we both need the opportunity. Lord Qing Emperor's disciple needs to be the most outstanding one," Bonehead said. Xian Daozi pointed a finger at Bonehead, his eyes filled with rage. He had already made things very clear, but Bonehead was still stubbornly clinging to his own course. Xian Daozi was considering whether or not he should be heavy-handed. "That's up to you," Xian Daozi said. "It's up to you whether or not you want to fight Night Sorrow. No one is going to force you to do anything. No one is going to think that someone who's been training for 900 years can defeat someone who's been training for 100 years. Originally, Xian Daozi wouldn't have made such a decision, but after receiving the Qing Emperor's message, the Qing Emperor felt that there was no need to stop this battle. Bonehead needed to make a name for himself because of Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow didn't need that, but he couldn't lose his drive. Qing Emperor felt that if he kept stopping Bonehead, others would think that he was protecting Night Sorrow. "Fight. If I don't fight, then everyone will think that I'm afraid. I don't want to prove anything. I just want to quietly do my own thing. But that's a bit difficult." Night Sorrow stood up and walked off the stage. Latest equals chapter. On the festival, come on. I'll let you see the difference between us. Bonehead waved the battle blade in his hand as he looked at Night Sorrow with an ominous glint in his eyes. Night Sorrow didn't say anything. He just waved splitting sky. At this moment, Bonehead moved. His body leapt into the air, and he wielded his war blade with both hands as he swung it at Night Sorrow. As Bonehead made his move, Night Sorrow knew that his will of darkness was compatible with the will of light. It was a dual elemental will and dual elemental energy. Two completely different types of energy and will were compatible. Bonehead's talent was still very strong. Night Sorrow used Sky Splitter and used Heavenly Wasteland Ultimate Kill. He used the Will of Time to support time acceleration to block Bone's ferocious attack. Suppression. Night Sorrow's Will of Time completely suppressed Bonehead's Will of Darkness and Light. They were on completely different levels. When Night Sorrow fought with Crow Beetle, he was unable to suppress him because Crow Beetle's cultivation was much higher than his. However, it was different now. Bonehead's comprehension of will was about the same as Night Sorrow's. Naturally, his normal attributes would be suppressed by his higher attributes. The Bone Blade's energy had been affected by Night Sorrow's time acceleration. It had less than 70% left. When it slashed at Night Sorrow's space rend, Night Sorrow's arm didn't even move, let alone his body. After being melted by time acceleration, Bonehead's energy cultivation was about the same as Night Sorrow's. In addition, Night Sorrow's body was a 2-star king. How could Bonehead move? After that, Bonehead crazily slashed at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow stood in place and casually blocked with space rend. This made all of Bonehead's attacks ineffective. Night Sorrow didn't want to make things difficult for anyone. This was the Qing Emperor's disciple ceremony. If he attacked too aggressively and something went wrong, it would be equivalent to slapping the Qing Emperor's face. That was what he thought, but Bonehead didn't think so. When Bonehead saw that he couldn't break through Knight Sorrow's defense, he changed his move. When Knight Sorrow blocked the blade, another blade appeared in his left hand and stabbed towards Knight Sorrow's chest. Knight Sorrow's right hand didn't change Bonehead's blade, but his left hand punched towards Bonehead's second blade. Following an explosion, Bonehead was knocked back by Knight Sorrow's punch. Knight Sorrow's left and right hands had the same attack power, and he had even used concussion force, so Bonehead was knocked back. Gap. Is this the gap you were talking about? Knight Sorrow swung Space Rend and looked at Bonehead. At this moment, countless spectators knew that Bonehead was no match for Knight Sorrow. Moreover, there was a huge gap between them. However, Bonehead was furious. He swung his blade towards Knight Sorrow again. I'm going to kill you. Then I'll show you the gap between us. Knight Sorrow stood there without moving. A halo erupted from his body as he used Time Shock to protect himself. Bonehead's blade slashed at Knight Sorrow's body. However, as Knight Sorrow's energy shield kept vibrating, the energy on Bonehead's blade became weaker and weaker. After breaking through Knight Sorrow's energy shield, Bonehead's blade landed on Knight Sorrow's shoulder without even lifting his robes. Scram! Knight Sorrow swung Space Rend and slapped the dumbfounded Bonehead's chest. As Bonehead's energy shield broke, the sound of bones breaking could be heard from his body. Knight Sorrow's powerful attack sent Bonehead flying far away. He fell to the ground and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. I, Knight Sorrow, have no intention of fighting for anything. However, no one can step on my shoulder. Knight Sorrow swung Space Rend and returned to his seat. Hong Yi and Lanning kept clapping their hands. They were too excited at this moment. Knight Sorrow's performance was too domineering and dazzling. Calm as still water, moving like wind and thunder. This was the portrayal of Knight Sorrow's performance at this moment. Xian Daozi slammed his hand on the table, his face full of excitement. Shocking. Knight Sorrow's performance had shocked him. What was this? This was a gentleman's anger. After Bonehead stood up, he quietly returned to his seat. At this moment, he had been awakened by Knight Sorrow's attack. He could not just leave in a fit of anger. If he left, he would lose a great opportunity. The situation was not good now, but it did not mean that there was no chance at all. After Knight Sorrow returned to his seat, he was very quiet, as if the person who had just fought had nothing to do with him. The Qing Emperor withdrew his soul power. The matter was settled. The people who passed in the end were all his disciples in name. As for who would be his personal disciple, that was his choice. Then Xian Daozi clasped his hands to the people who had come to watch the ceremony. Thank you everyone for coming to watch the ceremony. Those who pass are all His Majesty's disciples in name. As for the following arrangements, it is up to His Majesty. The ceremony ended. Knight Sorrow and his people stayed in the Qing Emperor's palace because they had to wait for an audience with the Qing Emperor. Knight Sorrow, you are now the Qing Emperor's disciple in name, Hong Yi said excitedly. If you can get the Qing Emperor's attention, you will most likely become his personal disciple. Then your status and position will rise. No, I plan to become the Qing Emperor's disciple. I'm not doing this for status or position, I'm doing this for my own strength. Status and position are not given to you by others. You have to fight for it with your own strength. Knight Sorrow shook his head. Hong Yi's words made sense, but they were not in line with his philosophy. Young man, you are right. Your own strength is the most important thing. With strength, status and position will not be a problem. Xian Daozi arrived at Knight Sorrow's residence. Knight Sorrow greets Senior. Knight Sorrow clasped his hands to Xian Daozi. No need to be so polite, young man, Xian Daozi said with a smile. If I politely said that this was luck, that would be blasphemy to my own efforts. Perhaps this is fate, Knight Sorrow said. Chapter 11:24. Well said, Xian Daozi said. No matter what, you have to respect yourself. Only by respecting yourself can you gain the respect of others. He nodded at Night Sorrow. He really liked Night Sorrow's philosophy. Yes, Night Sorrow said. It doesn't matter if you gain the respect of others. It's important to respect yourself. It's an attitude. Actually, I was the one who screwed you over, Xian Daozi said apologetically. It was I who reported the results of your divination to His Majesty. That's why the Blue Phoenix Princess came looking for you and forced you to do something against your will. Don't say that, Xian Daozi said. It's true that you helped me a lot. Even if the Qing Emperor's dynasty didn't come looking for me, the Red Emperor's kingdom would have. You know what kind of people they are, and I'm the one who's in trouble. It's a problem that can't be solved. Besides, I was able to become the Qing Emperor's disciple, an honorary disciple. This is also an opportunity. He really wanted to learn from Xian Daozi. Haha. In that case, I really did help you. I owe you a drink. Xian Daozi pointed at Night Sorrow, then left with a smile. Divination masters could foresee the workings of the heavens, so they believed in opportunities. He had never imagined that his divination would affect Night Sorrow so much. Xian Daozi returned to the Azure Sky Pavilion. Your Majesty, did I do a good job today? Xian Daozi sat down across from the Qing Emperor. Not bad, the Qing Emperor said. Just an honorary disciple. It's not like I'm taking in a lot of disciples. Bring them to see me tomorrow. After resting for a while, Xian Daozi brought Night Sorrow and the others to the Azure Sky Pavilion. After waiting for a while, the Qing Emperor appeared. He wore a black robe embroidered with mountain and river patterns, and a golden crown on his head. Greetings, Master. Bonehead and the others all knelt. Looking at Qing Emperor, Night Sorrow was stunned. He recognized that Qing Emperor was the elder who had given him pointers, but his attire was different today. At this moment, Bonehead and the others had finished kowtowing. Night Sorrow was still looking at Qing Emperor. What? Are you disappointed? Qing Emperor looked at Night Sorrow and said with a smile. I'm not disappointed. Actually, what I want the most is the guidance of an elder, not the Qing Emperor, Night Sorrow said, shaking his head. Then what are you waiting for? You haven't paid your respects to your master yet, Xian Daozi said. Night Sorrow stepped forward and knelt on one knee. He clasped his hands and bowed to Qing Emperor. You are being disrespectful to master. Bonehead growled. Emperor Qing stepped forward and helped Yi Shang up. A man, a gentleman, should have a clear conscience when he raises his head, and a clear conscience when he lowers his head. Master, I'm sorry. All these years, I've been insisting that I'm not inferior to anyone. I don't know why. I'm sorry, Night Sorrow said. Haha. Master understands. Master also came from the same stage as you. That's very good. From today onwards, you are my personal disciple, Qing Emperor said. Thank you, Master. I won't let you down. Night Sorrow bowed. What about you guys? I won't hide it from you. In fact, you are just accompanying the Crown Prince. I only want to accept one disciple, and that is Night Sorrow. You guys are lucky because of him, so don't be jealous. Don't reject him. Otherwise, I'll kick you out. Qing Emperor looked at Bonehead and the others. Protective. Unreasonable, very unreasonable. This was Qing Emperor. He didn't need to reason with anyone. His words were law. Anyone who disobeyed him would be destroyed. Bonehead and the others were taught a lesson by Qing Emperor. They couldn't be jealous at all. Jealousy was death. Take them away and make arrangements. I'll give them some pointers when I have time. As for what they can achieve, that's up to you. Actually, you have to walk your own path. The starting point doesn't determine your achievements, Qing Emperor said to Xian Daozi. Night Sorrow chatted with Qing Emperor for a while. Qing Emperor waved his hand and called someone over. It was an old man in black. The old man was tall and sturdy. He was dressed in black, but he wore a mask. Above the mask was a snow-white beard. Night Sorrow, this is Summer City. He's been with me for a long time. You can call him Uncle Summer. He'll follow you from now on. Summer City, you'll be in charge of Night Sorrow's affairs in the Qing Emperor's dynasty. You'll deal with things that cross the line, Qing Emperor said to the old man. I understand. Summer City bowed to Qing Emperor, then cupped his hands to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow greets Uncle Summer. Night Sorrow bowed in return. Bring him to 9-story tower. From now on, 9-story tower will be Night Sorrow's residence. Night Sorrow, you still have to be a soldier of the Green Phoenix Army. You still have to fight when you need to. What I need to do is to point out a path for you, not walk it for you. Qing Emperor said to Night Sorrow. I understand. Night Sorrow bowed to Qing Emperor. Take it and read it. Ask me if you don't understand. Qing Emperor took out 2 books and handed them to Night Sorrow. Then, under Summer City's lead, Night Sorrow brought Red Shirt and Blue Shadow to 9-story tower. 9-story tower was just a title. Its actual name was 9-story palace. The 9-story tower had a special status in the Azure Supreme the Arch Empire. It was the place where the Azure Supreme the Arch stayed when he was young. Later on, he left the 9-story tower and went to the Azure Supreme the Arch Palace to live in the Azure Sky Pavilion. 9-story palace had always been empty. No prince could stay there. If Night Sorrow does anything wrong or doesn't understand, please tell me, Uncle Summer, Night Sorrow said to Summer City when they arrived at 9-story palace. You're too kind, Your Highness. If there's anything you can't solve in the future, just tell me, Summer City said. Uncle Summer, don't call me that. Just call me Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow brewed a pot of heart-cleansing tea. No, in the Qing Emperor's dynasty, the Emperor's direct disciple is the prince. That was the case for Princess Sandalwood back then. The Emperor also mentioned this rule. In other words, you're the 3rd prince of the Qing Emperor's dynasty, Summer City said. Uncle Summer, don't call me that in the future. It doesn't matter if I'm a prince or not. I became the master's disciple because I want to learn more skills. I can't cause instability in the Qing Emperor's dynasty because of this meaningless title, Night Sorrow said to Summer City. I understand. I'll go arrange the guards and maids of 9-story palace now. Summer City bowed to Night Sorrow and left 9-story palace for Azure Sky Pavilion. In Azure Sky Pavilion, the Qing Emperor and Xian Daozi were playing chess. Has Night Sorrow settled down? Qing Emperor asked. They've settled down. Yi Shang and his 2 followers have already settled down, Xia Cheng said with a bow. Summer City, this is unruly. We're like brothers, but Night Sorrow is my direct disciple. In the Qing Emperor's dynasty, he's a prince. I asked you to go because I was worried. Qing Emperor didn't let go of the Book of 7-story palace. He was the only genuine Book of 7-story palace. Your Majesty, it's not that I'm unruly. It's just that Your Highness doesn't allow it. Summer City bowed and said. Chapter 1125. His Highness said that he wanted to become your disciple because he wanted to learn some skills, not because of his status. He didn't want to cause instability in the Qing Emperor's dynasty because of this. Summer City bowed and said. Wise man, I didn't misjudge him. But His Highness is His Highness. No one can question this, and no one can change it. The Qing Emperor put down the document in his hand. The Azure Supreme the Arch was not a rash person. If he did not understand and was not confident, he would not easily accept a personal disciple. He knew everything about Yi Shang's past. What he wanted was a disciple like Yi Shang. I understand. Summer City bowed and said. Bring a small team of the Qing Emperor's guards to the 9-story tower. They will be Night Sorrow's personal guards from now on. The normal guards of the 9-story tower will be transferred from the city guard army. As for the maids, you can make the arrangements. Also, announce to the world that Night Sorrow is my disciple. If I don't give it to him, no one can have it. If I want to give it to him, he must accept it, the Qing Emperor said. Then, Xian Daozi and Summer City went to make the arrangements. The Qing Emperor trusted them the most when they were handling things. Xian Daozi and the Qing Emperor were good friends. He knew what the Qing Emperor was thinking. As long as the Qing Emperor expressed his intentions, he would help him deal with it. Be unspecified currency, unspecified currency, unspecified currency. Summer City was different. Summer City was the Qing Emperor's brother. They had fought side by side in the past, and their relationship was even deeper. In the Qing Emperor's dynasty, Summer City was the Qing Emperor's shadow. After the Qing Emperor's guard deployed a small team to the 9 grand floors to defend Summer City, they also deployed a small team from the Qing Emperor's city guard army before returning to the 9 grand floors. In the Qing Emperor's dynasty, the Qing Emperor's guard was the power controlled by the Qing Emperor. Summer City was the highest leader of the Qing Emperor's city guards, which meant that only Summer City could mobilize them. Other people could not mobilize the Qing Emperor's guard and the city guards. At the same time, Xian Daozi also announced Night Sorrow's situation. This news caused a huge commotion in the Qing Emperor's dynasty. The birth of a new prince would cause a huge conflict in the Qing Emperor's dynasty. It could be said that there would be a shift in power. The Qing Emperor was the most important person in the Qing Emperor's dynasty. Her Highness was the second most important person in the Qing Emperor's dynasty. As soon as the news came out, many officials of the Qing Emperor's dynasty came to the 9 grand floors to visit Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow's way of dealing with things was to not meet anyone. He told Summer City that he was in seclusion. He did not want to participate in the core power of the Qing Emperor's dynasty. He did not want to at all. Yi Shang was indeed cultivating in seclusion. The 2 books that the Azure Supreme the Arch had given him were his cultivation experiences. One was his combat experience, and the other was his artifact forging and array formation experience. Both were the Azure Supreme Thearka's ultimate techniques. In the Qinglin Palace, Qinglin, who was wearing the Qinglin battle robe, was listening to his subordinate's report. Your Highness, it seems that Night Sorrow does not plan to step into the core power. Kongming, send people to keep an eye on him. He does not plan to do so now. But if he wants to, he can control the same power as me and Princess Qinghuan at any time, or even surpass it, Qinglin said to his subordinate. Kongming was a general of the Qinglin army. He was Qinglin's absolute confidant. Qinglin would let him handle some important matters. Is there any way to destroy his prestige and His Majesty's trust in him? Kongming asked. We can't do that. We can't be hostile to him. The fact that the Azure the Arch Guard was sent to the 9 Chong Pagoda is an important signal. Father's intention is clear. Whoever dares to touch him, Father will do the same. No one is allowed, including me, said Qinglin. Others might not know, but Qinglin knew about Night Sorrow's situation. He knew how important Night Sorrow was to the Qing Emperor's dynasty. He could affect the fate of the Qing Emperor's dynasty. In addition, the Qing Emperor's arrangements also let Qinglin know that Night Sorrow was not only valuable to the Qing Emperor, but he also sincerely admired and liked him. At the same time, the Qing Emperor also got the news. This little guy is really not simple. What he did shows his attitude, mood, and state of mind. My prince and princess are not good enough. The Qing Emperor sighed with emotion. Strength is the foundation of everything. Many people don't understand this. I don't know whether Night Sorrow has understood it, but what he is doing now is in line with the meaning of Tao, Xian Dozi said. Summer City is there, so there won't be any problems. That old guy is cruel and merciless. He won't let anyone touch Night Sorrow. I'm going to cultivate in seclusion. If I can take one more step, I'll go and kill those bastards one by one. The Qing Emperor left after saying that. In the world of samsara, the leaders of the top forces were almost equal in strength. They were competing to see who could take the first step. Whoever could take another step forward would be able to change the current situation. Knight Sorrow cultivated in seclusion every day to learn the cultivation experience of the Qing Emperor. As he studied the Qing Emperor's handwritten letter, Knight Sorrow knew that the Qing Emperor had the space attribute. He even developed a unique skill, the Emperor Samsara / However, the original version was the Great Emperor Samsara / that the Azure Supreme the Arch had mastered. Yi Shang could not cultivate it. The Great Emperor Samsara / that the Azure Supreme the Arch had cultivated was a supreme art that was formed by the fusion of the spatial attribute and the other 5 attributes. What Knight Sorrow wanted to do was to learn from it, not copy it step by step. He couldn't copy it because each attribute was different. The doppelganger studied the handwritten letter, and the original body began to analyze it. Then, the doppelganger practiced. After cultivating for 2 months, Knight Sorrow's doppelganger stopped cultivating. In the lobby of the 9-story building, Knight Sorrow saw Summer City, 2 men in armor, and a middle-aged woman. "Greetings, Your Highness." Summer City led the 3 of them and bowed. "Uncle Summer, you don't have to be so polite. Just call me Knight Sorrow," Knight Sorrow said. "This is His Majesty's order. I can't go against it." One of them is the captain of the Qing Emperor's Guard, Fei Xiu. The other is the captain of the city guards, Shen Han. The other is the manager arranged by the Qing Emperor's palace, He Qiu. Summer City introduced the 2 men in armor and the middle-aged woman. "Uncle Summer, you're an elder. You can arrange the matters in the 9-story building as you see fit. I'll go to the Green Phoenix Army later," Knight Sorrow said. "Your Highness, there's one thing you don't know. In the Qing Emperor's dynasty, Your Highness has the right to build and own an army," Summer City said. "No need. I'd rather serve in the Green Phoenix Army." Knight Sorrow shook his head. He didn't have many thoughts about it. "Fei Xiu, Shen Han, when Your Highness isn't here, you'll be in charge of everything in the 9-story building. You can't make any mistakes. If Your Highness doesn't see any guests, then the 9-story building won't receive any guests. If there are any trespassers, kill them on the spot, no matter who they are," Summer City said to Fei Xiu and Shen Han. "Yes, old Summer. Don't worry." Fei Xiu and Shen Han nodded. "Uncle Summer, you guys do what you need to do. I'll bring the 2 of them to the camp." Knight Sorrow pointed at Redcoat and Lan Ning. "No need. The 3 of them can look after this place. I'll follow Your Highness." Summer City shook his head. "Uncle Summer, you're an elder. You can't run around with me," Knight Sorrow said to Summer City. Chapter 1126. It's nothing. I'll follow you, Your Highness. I won't interfere with anything you do or bully anyone. However, I won't tolerate anyone who dares to bully you, Your Highness, Summer City said. "Uncle Xia, I really don't want you to suffer because of me." Knight Sorrow looked at Summer City and said. He knew that Summer City was highly valued by the Qing Emperor. If he couldn't come here, he would have to suffer with him. "It's nothing. It's our fortune that Your Highness can sympathize with the people around you." Summer City shook his head and said. Knight Sorrow sighed and didn't say anything more. He knew that Summer City was insistent. It was useless for him to object. It would be disrespectful. Looking at the people again, Knight Sorrow took out 2 jars of wine and put them on the table. Knight Sorrow is a cultivator from a small world. I'm indebted to Master for taking me in as his disciple. However, I'm still Knight Sorrow. So, don't be too cautious. We're all family now that we're living in the same mansion. Knight Sorrow opened the wine jar and poured a bowl for everyone. "Thank you, Your Highness." Fei Xiu, Shen Han, and He Qiu bowed to Knight Sorrow with the wine bowl. Knight Sorrow looked at Summer City with the wine bowl in his hand. "Uncle Xia, you used to be comfortable with Master. Now that you're suffering with me, Knight Sorrow, thank you." Night Sorrow finished his words and drank the wine in one gulp. Summer City drank the wine in the bowl and then looked at Fei Xiu and the other two. You guys can go and arrange things. Uncle Xia, do you have something to say to Night Sorrow? Night Sorrow looked at Summer City, who sent Fei Xiu, Shenhan, and He Qiu away. Yes, I have something to say to your highness. Even if your highness doesn't intend to touch the power of the Qing Emperor's dynasty, some people will still be hostile. The Qinglin Crown Prince and the Qingyuan Princess will have thoughts about it. Summer City said. I've thought about what Uncle Xia said. I'm going to the Qingyuan army now to show my attitude. I won't fight for anything. I just want to be myself and cultivate hard so that I won't disappoint Master. Night Sorrow said. Your Highness is right. Your Highness, Your Highness. Today, Your Highness, you're the Qing Emperor's dynasty. Your Highness, Your Highness, Your Highness, Your Highness. Your Highness, Your Highness's Highness. Your Highness's Highness, Your Highness. Perhaps. In. Highness, Your Highness. B. Highness. Thank you for your teachings, Uncle Xia. As long as Yi Shang is alive, I won't embarrass Master. Night Sorrow said. That's great. That's good. Actually, you just have to work hard on your cultivation. Status and position are all decided by strength and His Majesty. It's very important to take the right path. Your Highness' current path is the right one, Xiaqing said. Night Sorrow brought Summer City, Hong Yi, and Lanning to the Qingyuan Palace. After asking around, they found out that the Qingyuan princess wasn't there. Night Sorrow and the others teleported to the Qingyuan army and went to their own tents. Night Sorrow then used his own tent to make a place for Summer City to rest. Night Sorrow respected Summer City. One reason was because Summer City was a respected elder. The other reason was because of what he said just now. When Night Sorrow was talking to Meng Dan, the Qingyuan princess arrived. Night Sorrow greets Your Highness, Qingyuan princess. Night Sorrow stood up and cupped his hands. Summer City didn't stand up. She only nodded slightly. You can't call me that. You are my father's personal disciple and the third princess of the Qing Emperor's dynasty. You can call Your Majesty senior sister. Qingyuan Palace Princess said. Night Sorrow doesn't dare. Night Sorrow only acknowledged a master. Everything else is secondary. Night Sorrow shook his head. Junior brother, you don't have to be so polite. Did you come back to explain something? Qingyuan Princess asked. Explain what? I came back to see if there's anything wrong in the camp. I haven't been in the Massacre God territory for a while. I didn't fulfill my duties as the deputy commander. Night Sorrow said. Junior brother, do you plan to continue staying in the Qingyuan army and don't have any thoughts of forming your own army? Qingyuan Princess looked at Night Sorrow's face, waiting for Night Sorrow's reply. She mainly wanted to see Night Sorrow's expression to determine if his words were true or false. No. It's better to be my deputy commander. There's no need to worry. If there's a war, I'll go to war. If there's no war, I'll cultivate steadily. Night Sorrow said. That's fine too. If there's anything, go to the Qingyuan army's tent or Qingyuan palace to find senior sister. Uncle Summer, Qingyuan will take her leave first. Qingyuan Princess nodded to Night Sorrow. She then cupped her hands toward Summer City and left. Summer City only nodded and didn't say anything. In the Qing Emperor's dynasty, he only took orders from one person, and that was the Qing Emperor. Now, there was Night Sorrow. He didn't care about anyone else. Even if it was the Crown Prince and the Princess, he didn't need to care about them. In the Qingyuan army's tent, Princess Qingyuan sat on the main seat. The four generals sat in 2 rows below. Night Sorrow has returned. As the third majesty of the Qing Emperor's dynasty, he has returned to the Massacring God's territory. Princess Qingyuan narrowed her eyes and said. As a majesty, doesn't he have the right to form an army? Why did he return? Zhu Xuanjia asked in confusion. That's right. This shouldn't be the case. Commanders are supposed to charge and break through enemy lines. As a majesty, there's no need for him to do this. Why would he do this? Baizhenting also didn't understand. Either he's not interested in power or he's biding his time. Your Majesty can't tell the difference. Princess Qinghuan shook her head. Isn't he afraid that someone will attack him? Zhu Xuanjia asked. Afraid? Now, whoever touches him will be unlucky. When the Crown Prince's brother was forming the army, Father arranged Master Shengguanhong. When Your Majesty was forming the army, Father arranged Elder Zhua to assist Your Majesty. Right now, the one beside him is Iron-Faced Divine Marquis Summer City. He's Father's personal attendant and also the commander of the Qing Emperor's City Guard Army. Princess Qinghuan let out a breath. Iron-Faced Divine Marquis Summer City was very famous in the Qing Emperor's dynasty. Even Crown Prince Qinglin and Princess Qinghuan had to respect him. Then what should we do? If this guy stays in the Qinghuan army, he'll be an unstable factor. Baizhenting said. You're thinking too much. His Majesty Knight Sorrow is the deputy commander of the Qinghuan army. He just returned to his position. It's not a big deal, right? Qin Leitang said. Knight Sorrow was a soldier under his command. He didn't want to suspect anything. Actually, it's a good thing. Right now, no matter who wants to attack Your Majesty or the Qinghuan army, they'll have to be more careful. After all, there are two majesties here. Leitang General, go back and make some arrangements. Knight Sorrow's living conditions have to be changed. He's a deputy commander and also a majesty. Besides, Iron-Faced Divine Marquis is by his side. You can't slack off. Chapter 1127. When the Qing Emperor taught his disciples and children, everyone taught different things. Back then, Zhan Tan practiced the Emperor's divine wind palm. Qing Lin practiced the Qing Emperor's divine Qilin sword cut. Qing Huan practiced the phoenix traversing the 9 heavens. Whether it was the Emperor's divine wind palm, divine Qilin sword cut, or phoenix traversing the 9 heavens, they were all skills that could allow one to fight above their level. Therefore, Qing Huan really wanted to know what Knight Sorrow was learning, but she couldn't ask. Knight Sorrow cultivated for 2 days. Qin Leitang arranged for people to bring Knight Sorrow and the others to change their living quarters. They changed from tents to lofts. Only Qin Leitang received this treatment in the Leitang army. Qin Leitang didn't need to explain to anyone. Knight Sorrow was the 3rd prince of the Qing Emperor's dynasty. This wasn't a secret in the Qinghuan army. It wasn't a big deal for a prince to have a special residence. His identity in Summer City wasn't a secret either. As the main body continued to cultivate, Knight Sorrow's energy cultivation was getting closer and closer. This was the benefit of time acceleration. While cultivating, Knight Sorrow was also studying the Emperor's reincarnation / in the Qing Emperor's letter. In fact, Knight Sorrow had failed several times. The space attribute couldn't control the time and void attributes. No matter how they merged, it would collapse. After thinking for a long time, Knight Sorrow decided to change his way of thinking. That was to use the void attribute as the main attribute. This way, he could control the time and space attributes. In order to cultivate the Emperor's reincarnation / Knight Sorrow suppressed the will of space and time. He only merged the rules and energy. With the void rules and energy as the main attribute, he then merged the time and space rules and energy. It took Knight Sorrow half a month to complete the fusion. After studying and understanding the Emperor's reincarnation / Knight Sorrow couldn't use it. One reason was that it wasn't powerful enough now. Because he hadn't comprehended the void intent, the level was a bit low. Another reason was that he really didn't dare to expose this. Having stayed in the world of samsara for more than a day or two, Knight Sorrow knew that there were still king with advanced attributes in the supreme world. The surface area of a supreme world was countless times that of a high-grade world, and the number of cultivators was countless times greater. In addition, the conditions were good, and with the accumulation of time, it wasn't strange for someone to be able to cultivate a high-grade will. While increasing his energy cultivation, Knight Sorrow was also cultivating his realm. He wanted to increase his cultivation as soon as possible and then destroy the evil Spirit King. Then, his true body could go to the Samsara Palace in the world of Samsara to cultivate and comprehend the will of nothingness. The comprehension of the nihility will was the key to determining Knight Sorrow's ultimate height. Knight Sorrow's doppelganger studied the letter that the Qing Emperor had given him. Many questions that he didn't understand before became clear as he studied the letter. Your Highness, when will your true body come to the world of Samsara? I'll go and pick him up. Nothing can happen to your true body, Summer City said as he looked at Knight Sorrow who had finished cultivating his battle skills. Uncle Summer, I'm also in a hurry, but there's no other way. Knight Sorrow explained his situation in the 9 regions world. The only authentic VZB, he was a pirate. So that's how it is. This leap is a little too big. Even with some auxiliary methods, it's difficult to kill someone with such a leap. Your Highness can only increase your own height. Oh right, after becoming a Highness, the Qing Emperor's dynasty will give your Highness 100 years of cultivation time in the Samsara Palace. If you need more time, you'll need to exchange for merit points, Summer City said to Knight Sorrow. The stability of the 9 regions world is very important. My true body must guard it, Knight Sorrow said. I know some of your information. It's too difficult to become a sector lord. Many monarchs can't do it. The world you belong to is very important to a sector lord. You must guard it, Summer City said to Knight Sorrow. Thank you for your reminder, Uncle Summer. Knight Sorrow saluted Summer City. You're welcome, Your Highness. Even if I didn't say it, Your Highness would know. Summer City shook his head. While they were talking, the Thunder Army's war drums sounded. Uncle Summer, wait for me here with red coat and blue shadow. I'll go and join the Thunder Army. After speaking, Knight Sorrow left the attic and went to the Thunder Army's martial arts field. In the Thunder Army's martial arts field, the 4 armies had gathered. Princess Qing Yuan and Qin Leitang stood on the high platform in front of the martial arts field. Everyone has rested and rested for a long time. Now the warriors of the Dark Abyss have started to harass our Qing Emperor's dynasty's border again. Our Qing Yuan army is guarding the area, so we're going to fight. Princess Qing Yuan gave the order. Yes, Your Highness. Everyone waved their weapons. Knight Sorrow stood in front of the Massacre God's territory and looked at Princess Qing Yuan with Sky Splitter. Junior brother, do you plan to go too? Princess Qing Yuan looked at Knight Sorrow. I'm going. Knight Sorrow looked at Princess Qing Yuan for a moment and nodded. At this moment, Knight Sorrow felt that Princess Qing Yuan was really scheming. If she really didn't want him to go, she shouldn't have said it in front of others but in front of all the soldiers of the Thunder Army. Even if he didn't want to go, he had to go. If he didn't go, he would lose face. Most importantly, he would lose face for the Qing Emperor. In order to make things difficult for him, Princess Qing Yuan even used the Qing Emperor's face as a weapon. This made Knight Sorrow feel disgusted. Compared to when she recruited him, her attitude and demeanor were completely different. However, Knight Sorrow could understand. In the past, when she recruited him, it didn't affect her own interests. But now, Knight Sorrow was already a threat to her. After which, everyone led their men to prepare for departure. Qing Yuan Palace Mistress came to Knight Sorrow's side. Junior brother, senior sister knew that you would definitely go, so I asked in front of the soldiers. This can also raise the morale and also give junior brother some prestige. So, don't mind it. Senior sister is thinking too much. Knight Sorrow shook his head. He even had a feeling that his thoughts were wrong. But Knight Sorrow knew that his first feeling wouldn't be wrong. In the pavilion, Summer City tapped his finger on the table. That's really the case. Hong Yi, La Ning, you guys stay here. I will secretly follow His Highness. Summer City knew that Night Sorrow would be ostracized, but he didn't expect Princess Qing Luan to react so obviously. Now that Night Sorrow was still in his growth stage, he had to secretly follow him. Otherwise, if something happened, he wouldn't be able to answer to the Qing Emperor. After returning to the Thunder Army's tent, Princess Qing Luan knew that what she said just now made Night Sorrow unhappy. This was because after she asked, Night Sorrow looked at her and hesitated for a moment. This was a reaction in his heart and a sign of resistance. Princess Qing Luan let out a breath. She knew that she was too emotional today. She really shouldn't have done that. In Princess Qing Luan's heart, if other princes received the title and power of His Highness, she could still accept it. After all, they were all her brothers. But Night Sorrow was an outsider. After waiting for a while, the Thunder Army gathered and set off. This time, it was the Thunder Army of the Green Phoenix Army. The other 3 armies didn't go out. Because the Green Phoenix Army's camp was quite far from the border, the Thunder Army took 2 teleportation circles before arriving at the closest city. The 4th watch had arrived. Chapter 11:28. In this city, the Thunder Army didn't stop at all and continued to advance. Meng Dan followed beside Night Sorrow. Your Highness, this is your first battle. You don't understand the situation of the Dark Abyss, so you have to be careful. Thank you for your reminder, Commander Meng. I will be careful. Also, Commander Meng, you don't have to worry. Night Sorrow is just an ordinary deputy commander in the Thunder Army. I will do what I should do. Night Sorrow said to Meng Dan. He knew that his identity would bring some trouble to Meng Dan and the others. This was something he didn't want to see. Thank you, Your Highness. Meng Dan cupped his hands towards Night Sorrow. At this moment, his heart was touched because Night Sorrow's words were exactly what he was worried about. It's nothing. Night Sorrow smiled at Meng Dan. We can fight side by side with Your Highness. Wu Jia was very happy. This time, Princess Qing Luan didn't come. The one leading the army was Qin Leitang. I am also looking forward to it. However, the days of us fighting together are still in the future. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Your Highness, you really don't have any plans to form an army? Qin Leitang, who was leading the way, asked. Yes, I just want to cultivate in peace. I've never thought about anything too complicated. Yi Shang nodded. Your Highness' state of mind is too rare. Brothers. This time, we are fighting side by side with His Highness Night Sorrow. Don't lose face. Qin Leitang turned around and shouted. Latest PQ new chapter top Q. The response to Qin Leitang was a wailing and howling. This group of people were all hot-blooded men. They liked Night Sorrow's casual personality and attitude. Last time, we didn't let Your Highness drink well. This time, when we return, we will drink well with Your Highness. Wu Jia said. Sure, I'm just afraid that if you shout too loudly, you will cover your head and say that you are dizzy in the end. Night Sorrow looked at Wu Jia and threw out a sentence that made many people laugh. Let's forget about last time, okay? Let's see next time. Wu Jia was embarrassed by Night Sorrow's words. Everyone from the Massacre God's territory laughed heartily. Wu Jia looked at everyone. Laugh all you want. I don't care. If you have the ability, try His Highness's alcohol tolerance. This was the Massacre of God's territory. Since it was not the time to issue battle orders, everyone was more casual. After flying for 2 hours, Qin Leitang gave the order to set up camp on the spot. Following which, the combat scouts were sent out. It was Ah Chio's team. At this time, the sky was already dark. Night Sorrow set up a tent and lit a bonfire. His heart was a little restless, not because he was afraid, but because he was excited. Back then in the eastern Xian region, the scene of him fighting the demonic beasts in the dark space was similar to this. Meng Dan and Wu Jia came to Night Sorrow's side. Wu Jia took out some barbecued meat and heated it over the charcoal fire. Your Highness, there's no need to worry. It's nothing. Our Thunderbolt Battalion has fought many battles like this in the past. As long as we don't get surrounded and don't go in alone, there won't be any problems, Wu Jia said. General said that Your Highness has commanded several world wars. How could Your Highness be lacking in battle experience? Meng Dan glanced at Wu Jia. That's true. I'm just worried for nothing. Wu Jia nodded. 2 hours later, Chiu returned. However, she reported the specific results to Qin Leitang, so the others didn't know the specific situation. After hearing Chiu's report, Qin Leitang summoned the 4 battalions to gather. We just found out that the level of the Dark Abyss warriors is average, but their numbers are terrifying. The difficulty of this battle is consumption. Alright, all commanders, set out with your troops. Advance 1,000 miles and come back alive. Qin Leitang took out a general token and activated it. Then, he issued the battle order. Every soldier in the Thunderbolt Battalion had an identity token. One of the functions of the token was to prove their identity, and the other function was to record military merits. Normally, the command medallion didn't have this effect, but in times of war, when the commander or general activated the command medallion in their hands, the medallion would absorb the life force of the killed opponent to form merit battle runes. Merit battle runes were equivalent to merit points. The 4 commanders of the Thunderbolt Battalion set out with their subordinates. Knight Sorrow and Meng Dan led the soldiers of the Massacre Gods Battalion at the very center. After advancing for 200 miles, they encountered the Dark Abyss warriors. The Dark Abyss warriors' figures were similar to humans, but their faces had dark runes. They were wearing and holding the same battle sabers and armor. Battalion. Knight Sorrow knew that this was the Dark Abyss Battalion's uniform armor and weapons. This was the battalion's equipment. Kill, all those standing in front of us are military merits and resources, Meng Dan shouted at the soldiers of the Massacre Gods Battalion and began to charge forward. Knight Sorrow activated his protective barrier and slashed forward. Your Highness, slow down, Wu Jia shouted. He was worried that Knight Sorrow would be in danger. It's nothing. Everyone, pay attention to your safety, Knight Sorrow directly charged towards the Dark Abyss Battalion. He had promised that he would always appear before every battle. Knight Sorrow's speed was extremely fast, almost the same as Meng Dan. The 1st Battalion led by Wu Jia followed behind Knight Sorrow. When he got close to the Dark Abyss Battalion, Knight Sorrow began to attack with Space Splitter. Most of the Dark Abyss Battalion were Saint Kings. Only a small portion of them were King ranks. Knight Sorrow didn't need any battle skills to enter the Dark Abyss Battalion. Space Splitter was used to reap lives and accumulate military merits. Knight Sorrow's back was littered with corpses. He could feel the token hanging from his waist constantly absorbing the vitality of the Dark Abyss Battalion he killed. Brothers, pay attention to your safety. If you encounter a king, surround him and kill him. That's all military merits, Wu Jia shouted. Hearing Wu Jia's shout, Knight Sorrow's target changed. He targeted the Dark Abyss Battalion's king ranks and killed them. The military merits gained from killing Saint King rank Dark Abyss Battalion and King rank Dark Abyss Battalion captains and commanders were completely different. Knight Sorrow wasn't fighting for military merits, but to reduce the danger to others. The Massacring Gods Battalion soldiers who noticed Knight Sorrow's battle were all shocked. Knight Sorrow was fighting for his life. He didn't look like a noble highness at all. At this moment, he looked more like a charging soldier. If it wasn't a king-rank Dark Abyss Battalion, Knight Sorrow could casually wave Space Splitter and rely on his physical strength to kill them. If he encountered a king-rank Dark Abyss Battalion commander, he would use his energy and battle skills to kill them. Knight Sorrow remembered Qin Leitang's words. There were many Dark Abyss Battalion soldiers, so they had to avoid exhausting themselves. As the slaughter continued, Knight Sorrow slowly moved deeper into the Dark Abyss Battalion. The Thunder Battalion soldiers weren't as fast as him, so they couldn't kill as fast as him. Gradually, the distance between them widened. Knight Sorrow didn't care about this. If it wasn't for a high-level king-ranked Dark Abyss battalion appearing out of nowhere, there was no way he could be killed instantly. Knight Sorrow needed military merits. Not only did he need them, but the 9 regions' world's cultivators were low-level and their cultivation techniques were poor. With military merits, he could exchange them for what he needed. As for Princess Qing Yuan, Knight Sorrow didn't count on her anymore. Their relationship had changed, and it was different from before. Now, Princess Qing Yuan was rejecting him. First update. The announcement was made yesterday. Counting from yesterday, the reward is now 200. If someone says it's expensive, then I'll add more. If there are people who say it's expensive, then I'll add more. If there aren't, then it's not bad either. We won't force you, so I'm not tired of adding 4. Also, if there are people who say I'll add less than 4, please don't say such things again. It's not good for anyone if we get into an argument. Let's have fun. I've never forced anyone, and it's fine if you read white books. We're all book fans, but don't make unreasonable requests. Chapter 1129. Before Knight Sorrow became the disciple of the Qing Emperor, Princess Qing Yuan was very polite and courteous. But now, because Knight Sorrow was also the prince of the Qing Emperor's imperial dynasty, she had misgivings in her heart. It could also be said that she was suspicious of him. Speaking of other things, she didn't give Hong Yi and Lanning the cloning technique. She had said that she would give it to him. Since it didn't work with Princess Qing Yuan, Knight Sorrow had other plans and had to rely on himself. Heads and flesh flew everywhere. Wherever Knight Sorrow went, it was like harvesting wheat. Kill. There was no mercy in a battle between legions. Being merciful to the enemy was being cruel to one's own people and to the Thunder Legion soldiers. Most of the soldiers of the massacring gods' territory followed behind Yishang. One reason was that they were worried about Yishang's safety. Another reason was that it was easier to kill those behind Yishang. The Dark Legion had been scattered by Yishang. Wu Jia rushed to Knight Sorrow's side and supported Knight Sorrow. Currently, other than Meng Dan who was supervising the battle, only Wu Jia could keep up with Knight Sorrow's rhythm. The others had already distanced themselves. Your Highness, ferocious. While fighting, Wu Jia yelled out loudly. Haha. Let's fight to our heart's content. Knight Sorrow used a space-twisting dragon kill and a time shock wave to kill a King Darkness Legion's captain and laughed. Well said, let's fight to our heart's content. Wu Jia's battle intent was also high. A group of people kept pushing forward. The Darkness Legion also quickly gathered and constantly clashed with each other. After the collision, the Dark Warriors would be killed and eliminated. The Massacre God's leader was the elite of the Green One army. Their battle strength was extremely powerful. Moreover, the coordination of the battle formation was of a higher level than before. Their battle strength and lethality had a huge increase. After pushing forward for 1,000 miles, Massacre God's territory fought for 8 hours before they reached the target line. When they reached the target line, Meng Dan ordered them to set up defenses. The Legion's battle was a coordinated battle. One team couldn't go too deep. Knight Sorrow made himself a tent and boiled water to make tea. Wu Jia and some other captains, as well as Xiu, who was more familiar with Knight Sorrow, all ran over to Knight Sorrow's place to drink tea and chat. Ah, Xiu, you lazy bum. Go get a wild beast and roast it. Wu Jia nodded at Ah Xiu. Xiu smiled and went to work. Everyone was more casual. After Ah Xiu got the wild beasts, Wu Jia took out some wine. Everyone casually drank some wine and then went to cultivate and rest, because there was still a big battle tomorrow. However, Meng Dan came to Knight Sorrow's place. Your Highness, you don't have to fight so hard. Just do what you can, Meng Dan said. Back then, I made a promise. As long as we fight, I want to be in front of my brothers. If we retreat, I want to be at the back. If we don't keep our word, we can't stand. As long as we are in the Massacring God's territory, I will do this. Night Sorrow poured a bowl of wine for Mang Dan and said, "This is the good fortune of the brothers of the massacring gods' territory. Mang Dan will thank your highness on behalf of our brothers." Mang Dan cupped his hands towards Night Sorrow. "Commander Meng, you don't have to do this. I am a soldier of the massacring gods' territory. I will fulfill the responsibilities and obligations of a soldier." Night Sorrow cupped his hands in return. "I don't know what to say when you guys are so polite." Qin Leitang arrived at Night Sorrow's tent. "Greetings, General." Mang Dan bowed. Night Sorrow also cupped his hands towards Qin Leitang. "Your Highness, how many enemies did you kill? Why are the military inscriptions on the token so densely packed?" Qin Leitang looked at Night Sorrow's token and asked. "Your Highness charged at the front today and killed the most enemies. You even killed many king-level Dark Warrior captains," Mang Dan said. "Your Highness, I believe that such life-and-death battles are beneficial for your growth. However, you still have to pay attention to your safety." Qin Leitang looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Thank you for your advice, General. Night Sorrow will remember it." Night Sorrow nodded. Looking at Night Sorrow, Qin Leitang pondered for a moment. "There are some things that you don't have to worry about. Perhaps some people have doubts and scruples about your Highness, but I won't. As long as your Highness is in the Thunderbolt Army, I won't let anything happen. If I can't do anything, I will let your Highness leave or retire in advance." Night Sorrow looked at Qin Leitang. He didn't expect Qin Leitang to say something like this. This was equivalent to standing in his shoes and thinking about the problem. "You don't have to look at me like that. I am a member of the Qing Emperor's dynasty. Naturally, I can't watch your Highness get hurt. Most importantly, I am a soldier, so I respect true soldiers. Your Highness is such a person." Qin Leitang explained the reason behind his words. Night Sorrow smiled helplessly. "Actually, I am not a complicated person. I became Master's disciple to improve my own strength. I have never thought of becoming your Highness. I came to the Green Phoenix Army to be a soldier and fulfill a promise. At the same time, I will accumulate some military merits and earn some resources. On the last section of the new chapter." "I understand. I really understand. Don't worry. I will go take a look at the other 3 territories. Mang Dan, make arrangements for the soldiers in the Massacre God territory. Tomorrow's mission will be sent over tomorrow morning." After giving a few more instructions, Qin Leitang left. He wanted to check on the situation in the other territories and then give out orders for tomorrow's battle. Night Sorrow and Mang Dan filled the wine cup again. "Your Highness, let's not talk about anything else. Drink this bowl of wine and rest." After drinking the wine, Mang Dan also left Night Sorrow's tent. Qin Leitang and Mang Dan were hot-blooded soldiers, but it didn't mean that they didn't know some twists and turns. They knew that Night Sorrow was being doubted. Princess Qingwan asked Night Sorrow if he was going to participate in the battle. They felt that there was another meaning behind that question. Night Sorrow drank a pot of tea and took out a chair. He covered himself with a blanket and laid on it to rest. The main body's cultivation was enough for Yishang. Now, taking a break was relaxing. After dawn, Mang Dan and Wu Jia went to Night Sorrow's tent. Looking at Night Sorrow who was still sleeping, the two were stunned. How many people who cultivated to the king level slept? Moreover, there was going to be a big battle soon. At this moment, Night Sorrow stretched and sat up. "Comfortable. Other than your Highness, no one can do this." Wu Jia curled his lips and said, "Hee. I'm just resting for a while." Night Sorrow said with a smile. While they were talking, the messenger came with Qin Leitang's battle order. Today's mission was to not change the direction and advance 600 li yesterday. Advancing 1,000 li was nothing to Massacre God's territory, but there was pressure on the other 3 territories. Therefore, Qin Leitang made some adjustments. After tidying up, the group set off and continued the battle. Night Sorrow was still the same as before. He was at the front. Because Meng Dan had to coordinate with the overall situation, she let Wu Jia follow Night Sorrow and be the sharp blade of the group. They were going to eliminate the tough bones among the Dark Warriors. Night Sorrow's command token was getting denser and denser. This was very rare for others. The soldiers of Massacre God's territory also admired Night Sorrow. In Massacre God's territory, there were quite a number of 2-star king. The captains were all mid-level king. However, none of them were as powerful as Night Sorrow. The second update has arrived. The announcement was made yesterday. Counting from yesterday, the reward will be 200. If someone says it's expensive, then it's fine. If there are people who say it's expensive, I'll add. If there aren't, then it's also not bad. We won't force you. I'm not tired of 4 updates. Also, if there are people who say I'll guarantee 4 updates, please don't say this again. It's not good for anyone. Let's have fun. I didn't force anyone. It doesn't matter if you read white books. We are all book fans. However, don't make any unreasonable requests. Chapter 1130. Sometimes, Night Sorrow's sky-piercing spear would fly out to save the soldiers of Massacre God's territory if they were in danger. After fighting for a few days, Night Sorrow's prestige in Massacre God's territory grew higher and higher. Night Sorrow was a newbie in Massacre God's territory. They had never fought together before, so everyone felt a sense of unfamiliarity with him. In addition, Night Sorrow was the 3rd prince of the Qing Emperor's imperial court. His status was revered, and the soldiers of Massacre God's territory felt a sense of distance from him. However, as they fought and Night Sorrow fought every battle, the sense of unfamiliarity and distance slowly disappeared. They all became familiar with him. Whoever had barbecued meat or good wine would give Night Sorrow a portion. The iron-blooded soldiers wouldn't flatter anyone, and they didn't need it. If there was respect and affection, then everyone would chat and laugh together. If they didn't want to bother with you, they could just ignore you. Wu Jia and the other captains would look for Night Sorrow to have a meal after the battle. Every time Ah Chiu came, he would carry a wild beast to do it well. Otherwise, Wu Jia would scold him. Ah Chiu was brought out by Wu Jia. Although they weren't master and disciple, they were considered an elder brother. Meng Dan also often hung out with Night Sorrow. He was the commander, and Night Sorrow was the vice commander. Night Sorrow was the sharp knife at the front, and he was in the middle to command the entire situation. The two of them cooperated well. Qin Leitang would come once a day to ask about the situation and then formulate a tactical mission. He was very happy that Night Sorrow got along well with everyone. He thought highly of Night Sorrow, so he was very concerned about Night Sorrow's situation in Massacre God's territory. Night Sorrow's token changed color. It was originally white, but now it was blue. After a transition in the middle, it was green. The token would only change color when it reached 1,000 military points. This also meant that Night Sorrow was about to reach 3,000 military points. Killing a Saint King Peak Dark Warrior was 1 military point, and killing a King-level Dark Warrior would give more. After every battle, a quartermaster would clear out all the merit tokens and report them to the Qing Emperor's palace. In fact, the officials in charge of the meritorious deeds were the officials of the Qing Emperor's palace. They had no right to operate within the army. In other words, the meritorious deeds of the Qing Emperor's dynasty could not be faked, and no one could do so. Everyone's merit was recorded in the Qing Emperor's palace. Anyone who wanted to exchange for resources could go to the merit hall of the Qing Emperor's palace. Merit points were hard to come by, and it required a high quota to exchange for top-level resources. For example, the minimum exchange time for cultivation in the Samsara Palace was 10 years, and 10 years of cultivation required 100,000 merit points. Night Sorrow's 3,000 contribution points were less than half a year's worth. Thinking about it, Night Sorrow understood. The Ninth Heaven Pagoda only opened once every 3,000 years. It would be very difficult to obtain a slot. The samsara palace in the supreme world was more advanced, and cultivation time was more precious. It was normal to spend 100,000 merit points for 10 years. As for why Princess Qingyuan had so much time to cultivate, it was because she was the commander of the Qingyuan army. If the Qingyuan army won a battle, the soldiers would have battle merits. As the commander, she would also have battle merits. Moreover, her battle merits were the highest because the Qingyuan army was hers. Knight Sorrow didn't know if Princess Qingyuan would mention the cultivation time in the Samsara Palace again, but he didn't care. He had become the prince and already had cultivation time. He would continue to accumulate merit points to exchange for resources and cultivation methods. The Dark Abyss was a special country with more dark warriors. Therefore, the Dark Dominator didn't care about the consumption. As long as he attacked the surrounding forces, he could plunder resources. Survival of the fittest was the law of survival in the Dark Abyss. Wars eliminated some members with low cultivation and could get resources. This was the reason why the Dark Abyss started wars. The Qing Emperor's dynasty wanted to destroy the invaders. They would kill as many as they came. This situation had been going on for many years. The Qingyuan army was responsible for half of the defense line in the Dark Abyss, while the Green Scale army was responsible for the other half. The other borders of the Qing Emperor's dynasty were also divided. Wherever there was a problem, the army would go out to fight. If the Green Scale army and the Qingyuan army couldn't solve the problem, then there was the Qing Emperor's city guards. If the Qing Emperor's city guards couldn't solve the problem, then it was time for the Qing Emperor's guards to move out. However, in the long history, the Qing Emperor's guards had only been mobilized a few times. Knight Sorrow planned to let his clone mingle in the Qingyuan army while his original body cultivated. In order to complete the trade with Princess Qingyuan, Knight Sorrow's minimum service period was 1,000 years. 1,000 years might be a long time, but it was nothing in the eyes of high-level cultivators. Knight Sorrow had his original body cultivating, so the influence of his clone's service was only so-so. After 1,000 years of service, Knight Sorrow felt that he could also accumulate a lot of merit points. It was going smoothly. The war was going smoothly. After half a month, only a few soldiers from the massacring gods' territory died. Of course, danger appeared a few times when the Dark Abyss army's commander appeared. Knight Sorrow couldn't win, and Meng Dan could only hold them off. Qin Leitang, who received the message, could only take them down. The results were the same several times. After killing another Dark Abyss army commander, Qin Leitang left. Luckily, the general came in time every time. Otherwise, we would have suffered heavy losses. Knight Sorrow said emotionally. The general isn't in any of the armies. Usually, the command tent is in the center of the 4 armies. If any army is in danger, the general will appear. Meng Dan said. Knight Sorrow nodded. He understood that the battle order was given with a plan. Distance, consumption, and rescue were all part of Qin Leitang's plan. The battle continued. In the middle, Princess Qingyuan came once and said something to Knight Sorrow. However, Knight Sorrow felt that something was wrong. The feeling was completely different from before. After thinking for a while, Knight Sorrow understood that her heart had changed. Princess Qingyuan couldn't treat him as well as before. He was a threat to the other 2 princes of the Qing Emperor dynasty. Whether Knight Sorrow fought or not, this threat was still there. Such a situation was helpless. However, Knight Sorrow wasn't afraid. He was willing to keep a low profile. If Qing Lin and Qing Yuan used any methods, he could return to the 9 grand floors and form his own army. He had a promise to serve the Qing Emperor dynasty. Forming an army was also to serve the Qing Emperor dynasty. However, unless it was a last resort, Knight Sorrow wouldn't do that. He didn't want to hurt the relationship between master and disciple. Qing Lin and Qing Yuan were the children of the Qing Emperor. If he formed an army, it would mean that he wanted to compete with them. Knight Sorrow felt that it wasn't appropriate to compete with his master's children. Meng Dan's arrival made Knight Sorrow's thoughts stop. Z equals latest chapter previous, Your Highness. What are you thinking about? Meng Dan sat down and asked. Your Highness has come. Commander Meng knows. I feel like everything has changed. I feel helpless. Night Sorrow sighed. Meng Dan didn't say anything. She knew about this. When Night Sorrow challenged, Qing Wan's attitude and arrangements were different from now. After returning to the border city, Princess Qing Wan went to the inn arranged by the city lord. Your Highness, should you change the way you interact with Night Sorrow? Zhou Tingyun thought for a while and asked. Chapter 1131. Change the way I get along with Night Sorrow? Princess Qing Wan looked at Zhou Tingyun. Yes, Night Sorrow is a smart person. He can feel the princess's attitude. If he doesn't want to get along with you sincerely, then it would be a waste of the foundation he had built in the past, Zhou Tingyun said. Princess Qing Wan didn't say anything. Ever since she knew that Night Sorrow was valued by the Qing Emperor and became a prince, her heart was not calm. He is very stable now. He doesn't have any other thoughts. If he feels enmity and doesn't feel a sense of belonging, he might walk to the opposite side of the princess, Zhou Tingyun said. Your Majesty is angry. He is just a native of a small world. Now, he is actually on the same level as the Crown Prince and Your Majesty. What right does he have? Princess Qing Wan stood up agitatedly. Forgive me for saying this, but where did the Crown Prince and Princess get their prince's positions? It was given by His Majesty. His Majesty can give it to whoever he wants. No one can question it. The Qing Emperor's matters cannot be hidden from His Majesty. If the Princess and Night Sorrow have a conflict, I am afraid that it will lower the Princess's position in His Majesty's heart, Zhou Tingyun said. Zhou Tingyun had followed the Qing Emperor before, so he understood the Qing Emperor very well. He was ordered to assist Princess Qing Wan, so there were some things that he didn't want to see. Princess Qing Wan looked at Zhou Tingyun and thought. Zhou Tingyun's words were a little harsh, but they were all reasonable. Her and the Crown Prince's positions were given by the Qing Emperor. The Qing Emperor could give it or take it back. The Qing Emperor supported Night Sorrow to become a prince. If she did anything, it would be a slap to the Qing Emperor's face. Even if the Qing Emperor didn't say it, he would have some thoughts in his heart. At the very least, he would be disgusted. The only official version, the others were the official version. Elder Zhou, Your Majesty, and the Crown Prince are father's princes and princesses, but what about him? Princess Qing Wan's words were filled with emotions. His Majesty pursues two things. The first is his own strength. The second is the long-term stability of the Qing Emperor's dynasty. As long as the Qing Emperor's dynasty doesn't decline, his bloodline can continue. He doesn't care who has a higher position and power, as long as you can live well. It is. It. You value Yi Shang because you think he can bring stability to the Qing Emperor's empire? Princess Qing Wan asked. She wasn't just asking Zhou Tingyun, she was also asking herself, he. Zhou Tingyun understood the situation very clearly. Putting Night Sorrow's value to the Qing Emperor's dynasty aside, the Qing Emperor liked and appreciated Night Sorrow. There was no doubt about this. If Green Shilin and Princess Qing Wan made any moves, the Qing Emperor would first think that they didn't have enough courage and breadth of mind. He would think that they wouldn't be able to achieve great things. Your Highness, being on good terms with Night Sorrow will make Your Highness' position in the Qing Emperor's dynasty more stable. Seeing that Princess Qing Wan's emotions were gradually stabilizing, Zhou Tingyun once again spoke his opinion. Thank you for your advice, Elder Zhou. I will remember it. I must let go of my emotions. Even if I can't, I must keep it in my heart. Princess Qing Wan had thought it through. Night Sorrow fought every day. Every time he fought, he would rush to the front. His merits also increased. His friendship with the soldiers of the Massacre God's leader also deepened. Seeing the brothers of the Massacre God's leader fighting, Night Sorrow felt that it was time to bring his brothers to the world of reincarnation. Most of the members of the god-slaying team were paragons. Some were saints. Their development was still limited in the 9 regions world. People like Liang Yu, Yun Huang, and Ling Long all had high aptitudes. As for guidance, there were 2 great experts in the 9 Grand Pagoda. Fei Xiao and Shen Han were both outstanding king. Shen Han was slightly weaker, but Fei Xiao was a monarch. The Qing Emperor's Guard was the most elite team in the Qing Emperor's dynasty. It was normal for the captain to be a monarch. One must know that the Green Qilan Palace and Princess Qing Wan Palace didn't have the Qing Emperor's Guard stationed there. Knight Sorrow decided that after this battle, he would bring the members of the god-slaying team, his family, and the people around him to the 9 Grand Pagoda. There was no other way. Everyone's short cultivation time was a disadvantage. They all needed the Time Pagoda to speed up. Therefore, they could only gather together and use the Time Pagoda together. If it was in the past, Knight Sorrow wouldn't dare to do this because he was surrounded by danger in the world of reincarnation. However, it was different now. The 9 Grand Pagoda was absolutely safe. In the Qing Emperor's dynasty, other than the Qing Emperor's order, no one dared to enter the 9 Grand Pagoda. The Qing Emperor wouldn't threaten Knight Sorrow's safety. After fighting for a month, the Thunder Army fought to the border between the Qing Emperor's dynasty and the Dark Abyss. They even went deeper before stopping. After a war of attrition, the Massacre God's leader was also exhausted. More than 10 people died. This was something that couldn't be helped. There were always deaths on the battlefield. After a month of fighting, Knight Sorrow had accumulated tens of thousands of military merits. Ordinary soldiers couldn't compare to him. Even Meng Dan and Wu Jia's military merits were inferior to Knight Sorrow's. We'll rest for a day today. We'll return tomorrow. As for the responsibility of cleaning up the remaining people, Your Highness has gained quite a lot of military merits. When you return, you must treat us to a drink, Wu Jia said. Of course. There's no problem. It's a pity that some of our brothers have left, Knight Sorrow said to the soldiers of the Massacre God's leader. Your Highness, don't think too much. We have an agreement. Dying in battle is an honor. There's no need for anyone to feel sad. Moreover, Your Highness has kept your promise. Every time you charge, you'll be at the front. When you retreat, you'll be at the back, Wu Jia said. Who doesn't have parents, wife, and children? No one is afraid of death when they serve in the army. However, if they die in battle, their family will be damaged. There will be less laughter. Knight Sorrow lamented. We still have to urge them to work hard in their cultivation. The more power they have, the more hope they have of surviving. Meng Dan was also affected by Knight Sorrow's emotions. After the 4 leaders of the Thunder Army retreated, Knight Sorrow realized that the Massacre God's leader had the least casualties. The other leaders had 30 to 40 casualties. Wu Jia then told Knight Sorrow that in the past battles, the Massacre God's leader was stronger than the other 3 leaders. However, it wasn't so obvious. Now, it was the joint attack formation that had taken effect. The Thunder Army returned to the Green Phoenix Army's encampment. After returning to his own resting loft, Knight Sorrow saw Summer City drinking tea. He didn't know that Summer City had been in the battlefield all this time to protect his safety. He had just returned yesterday. Young Master, Her Highness Green Phoenix sent us a clone technique, Hong Yi said. Knight Sorrow was stunned. He felt that this shouldn't be the case. Previously, Green Phoenix Army's apprehension and suspicion were very obvious. At different times, their thoughts are different. Perhaps they have thought it through, because it's useless if they don't, Summer City said. Knight Sorrow nodded. He could understand the logic behind it. Then, Knight Sorrow asked Summer City if he could bring his hometown people to live in the 9 grand floors. Of course you can. His Majesty has bestowed this place to you, so it's your territory. If the cultivators of this small world want to rise, vision is very important. Watching the Qing Emperor's Guard and the city guards cultivate will allow them to gain insights. Also, it's not a problem for Fei Xiao and the others to give pointers. Here, your words are orders. Summer City said. The fourth update had arrived. It was estimated that there would be 3 more updates today, which was 7. The remaining 2 updates would be transferred to tomorrow. Chapter 1132. That's not so bad. I came to the world of samsara to get some opportunities for my hometown to rise. Of course, the current good situation is all because of my master, not the result of my hard work. Yishang said. Your Highness, it's good to have such a mentality, but don't belittle yourself. If you're not good enough and have no value, you won't have this opportunity. This is also a kind of ability. Confidence, you must be confident. If you have it, you must have your reasons. Summer City looked at Night Sorrow and said. He appreciated Night Sorrow's mentality, but he felt that he couldn't lose his edge and confidence. Uncle Summer, don't worry. I'm very confident. As long as I work hard, I can fight for my life, Night Sorrow said. Very good. In fact, I won't hide it from you. I came to your Highness from His Majesty's side. When Qinglin Crown Prince became the Crown Prince, he was assisted by Shengguan Hong. When Qinghuan Crown Prince became independent, Zhua Tingyin followed him. What I want to do is to watch your Highness rise. Your achievements in the Qing Emperor's dynasty also represent the success of my assistants, Summer City said. Uncle Summer, I'm sorry. Night Sorrow knew that Summer City was his protector in the Qing Emperor's dynasty and even in the world of samsara. Your Highness, don't say that. His Majesty thinks highly of your Highness, so do I. There's nothing to be sorry about. Summer City shook his head. Uncle Summer, if there's anything you need me to do, just tell me. I'm both a weapon refiner and an alchemist. Night Sorrow said. He knew that Summer City's fate was closely related to his. If Summer City was strong enough to suppress the protectors of Qinglin and Qinghuan, then everything would be much smoother. Weapons and armors can indeed increase one's battle prowess, but they are all external items. The key is still to increase one's own strength. At my level, it is already very difficult to increase one's own strength. It can be said that it is difficult to take even a single step forward. I can only rely on my comprehension to research absolute arts, Xiaqing said. Uncle Summer, I still have spirit perception pills and yin spirit pills. Do you need them? Night Sorrow asked. To improve my comprehension and spirituality, I do need them. Summer City looked at Night Sorrow and said. Yishang took out the profound spirit pill and spirit comprehension pill and gave them to Xiaqing. The profound spirit pill was an elixir vein profound spirit pill. He still had a few elixir vein profound spirit pills, but he couldn't use them carelessly because he had to prepare them for his future child. But your Highness, you can rest assured that Qinglin Crown Prince and Princess Qinghuan Princess of. If it was someone else's elixir, Xia City might not accept it. That was a favor. Big favors were karma, and it was very difficult to repay them in the future. However, Night Sorrow was different. In the future, he would work for Night Sorrow and work for Night Sorrow. I don't want to compete with them, and I don't want to fight with them. Master taught me how to cultivate. If I fight with them, Master will be sad and disappointed. But if anyone threatens my life, then I won't sit still and wait for death. Night Sorrow expressed his opinion, which was also his principle. You're right. Actually, your Highness has some foundation now. The Qing Emperor's guards in the 9 grand floors only listen to your Highness and your orders. In a few days, I'll hand over my position as the commander of the Qing Emperor's guards. However, the troops I've transferred now belong to your Highness. They're the strongest troops. Summer City said some things that Night Sorrow didn't know. Thank you, Uncle Summer. You've arranged some things for me. Night Sorrow stood up and bowed to Summer City. It's nothing. Right now, your Highness just needs to do what you need to do. If the Green Phoenix Army is at war, then your Highness will participate. If you have nothing to do, then come back and cultivate. If there are people you can't let go of, or people you need to train, then bring them to the 9 grand floors. Although your highness doesn't want to form an army, it's necessary to develop your subordinate strength. Also, your highness can recruit a personal army of 500 people. As for the resources for the soldiers, that's all arranged by the Qing Emperor's palace. It won't put any pressure on your highness. Summer City explained some things to Night Sorrow. Okay, I'll have to trouble Uncle Summer with this. I don't really understand these things right now. Night Sorrow said. Okay, then I'll arrange some people to do it. Summer City nodded. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, in addition, leave 100 people for the personal army. When the people around me come over, they'll train and cultivate with everyone. If they can have the treatment of the personal army, it'll be helpful for their development. Summer City nodded. He understood why Night Sorrow made such arrangements. Although the personal army's strength might be weaker, it would give the people around him a chance. Then Summer City reminded Night Sorrow that the key was still the original body. When the original body could go to the Samsara Palace to cultivate and improve himself was very important. During the cultivation period, the cultivators who entered the Samsara Palace and came out would have a great improvement in their achievements. Night Sorrow thought, making a choice and analyzing. He was analyzing if his original body went to cultivate, would the Dark Spirit world erupt within 100 years? Would the Dark Spirit King move? After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow felt that he had to wait. The cultivation time in the Samsara Palace was very important, and he couldn't waste it. After entering, he had to cultivate calmly. Looking at Night Sorrow thinking, Summer City didn't disturb him. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow told Summer City that he would go back to the 9 regions world and bring his family and the god-slaying team over. Originally, Night Sorrow didn't want to bring anyone, but Summer City arranged for Fei Xiu to bring the capable Qing Emperor's guards and follow Night Sorrow. 2 monarchs followed. Even Princess Qing Yuan didn't have such treatment. When the Qing Emperor arranged for Princess Qing Yuan, only Zhuo Tingyun was a master. There was no Qing Emperor's guards. Now that Night Sorrow had such treatment, the captain of the Qing Emperor's guards was naturally a master. Night Sorrow first went to the Tianding Gate and greeted his master Yu Yangyu. Then he chatted with Elder Xiang for a while. Yu Yangyu and the others didn't plan to move. They were now managing Danding Peak at the Tianding Gate. Night Sorrow supported Yu Yangyu and the others' decision. Everyone's choice and path were completely different. Then he met Beixing and King of the Big Dipper and learned that the Yanmen sect had publicly apologized and given Chia's city material compensation. Night Sorrow felt that this result was good. He didn't have to fight to the death with the Yanmen sect. When King of the Greedy Wolf wanted to drink with Night Sorrow, Summer City took a step forward. The energy in his body vibrated and directly shook Greedy Wolf King back. Be polite to our prince. Uncle Summer, it's okay. He's my friend. Night Sorrow shook his head at Summer City and then smiled apologetically at Greedy Wolf King. Prince? What prince? Beixing asked curiously. It's like this. I have another master. He's the Qing Emperor of the Qing Emperor's dynasty. Night Sorrow said. If no one asked, Night Sorrow wouldn't say it. That would be showing off. At this time, King Xian Tian also arrived. When he saw Summer City and Fei Xiu, he cupped his hands. As a monarch, he naturally knew how strong Summer City and Fei Xiu were. Chapter 1133. Night Sorrow introduced both parties to one another. His Highness went to the world of reincarnation to fight, in essence, for the continent of the 9 clouds. In the future, there won't be any supreme forces in the continent of the 9 clouds. But His Highness's forces in the continent of the 9 clouds, please take care of them, Monarch Xian Tian. If anyone wants to touch them, send a message to the 9 Layers Tower of the Qing Emperor dynasty. I will bring people to clean them up, said Xia Cheng. Strong and domineering. This was Summer City. He was polite to Night Sorrow, but his attitude was different from others. Please rest assured, Monarch of Summer City. We will take care of these things. Monarch Xian Tian nodded. This time, he came in person. When Night Sorrow and the others arrived at the teleportation array, Monarch Xian Tian's clone knew. The two monarchs followed Night Sorrow here. It was inappropriate for his clone to come. It was disrespectful. Senior Xian Tian, my sect in the 9 Domains world was the Medicine Valley, and the Medicine Valley was a branch of the Tianding Gate. Please take care of it, Monarch Xian Tian. Don't fall into any traps, Night Sorrow said. Monarch Xian Tian nodded. He didn't need Night Sorrow to say this. He had to do it well because the 9 Firmament World Group owed Night Sorrow. Some time ago, after Night Sorrow left, Monarch Xian Tian found Yenmen's sect and gave them 2 choices. They could apologize and compensate, or they could be destroyed. Faced with Monarch Xian Tian's strong suppression, Yenmen's sect could only choose to apologize and compensate. After talking for a while, Night Sorrow arrived at 7 Night City. He took Summer City and Fei Xiu for a walk. When Night Sorrow arrived at 7 Night City, the higher-ups of the 9 Domains world had received the news and came over. Night Sorrow looked at Tai Shu Yen and Long Xiansheng and asked about the situation. Tai Shu Yen bowed and reported some recent progress. Originally, what the 9 regions world lacked was resources. Even though Night Sorrow had prepared a lot of Saint Spirit stones, it was still not enough. Fortunately, the Yenmen's sect had sent over a batch of resources. Now, the 9 regions world, 7 Night City and Clear Sky City were working together on 2 fronts. Night Sorrow didn't hide it from anyone. He told them about the current situation in the world of reincarnation. He could give some people a chance. Everyone was thinking about it. No one said that they wanted to go to the reincarnation great world because the 9 regions world lacked people and resources. If the management went to the reincarnation great world, then the Commander-in-Chief's residence, 7 Night City, and Supreme Sky City would be paralyzed. How about this, you guys continue to focus on the construction of 7 Night City. I will work hard to earn resources and cultivation methods. Just wait for me, Night Sorrow said. Your Highness, if we can get a King-class teleportation crystal, 7 Night City can open up a teleportation array with our 9 Chong building. That way, it will be more convenient for us to come and go in the future. Summer City said. I still have a King-grade teleportation stone. It can sever a main body and some clones. Night Sorrow's eyes lit up. This was a good idea. If the 9 Chong building and 7 Night City could teleport to each other, it would be much more convenient in the future. Night Sorrow cut the King-class teleportation crystal that no beginning sovereign took out. Then, he embedded the clones into the teleportation array in 7 Night City. He teleported back to the 9 Chong building and set up a teleportation array. The teleportation array in the 9 Chong building didn't need anyone to guard it. The loyalty of the Qing Emperor's guards and the city guards was not a problem. They were the most important teams in Summer City. They were all his trusted subordinates. After setting up the teleportation array, Night Sorrow returned to 7 Night City and went to the city in the sky. Night Sorrow didn't force some people to go to the reincarnation great world. However, he had to bring some people with him. The god-slaying team. He had to bring his wife, parents, and 2 disciples. He also had to bring Xue Shi, Zhu Jiuyun, and Wu Lingfei. There were also 2 other people, Jun Xuanji and Ren Tianji. Forever, forever. Jun Xuanji and Ren Tianji used to be the 2 most outstanding talents in the Xuanji realm. After the war, their cultivation had increased exponentially. It was very difficult for Ren Tianji to enter the Saint realm. However, he had perseverance and managed to break through. Then, his cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. Just like Jun Xuanji, he was now a high-level saint. Therefore, he decided to go out and take a look. Night Sorrow supported him. He also needed some people around him to take care of some things. Ren Tianji didn't say anything. Jun Xuanji was very capable. He could definitely take care of some things in the Nine Chong building. As for He Chiu, it wasn't that Night Sorrow didn't trust her. It was just that he wasn't very familiar with her. After retrieving the pagoda of time and space, Night Sorrow gathered the members of the god-slaying team. In addition, he called his parents, sister, and disciples to the mansion. Then, he told them his plan. Everyone supported Night Sorrow's decision. Yi Wuyo looked at his son and said, Night Sorrow, Saint King Qianhua, great ancestor, and your grandfather's cultivation aptitude is excellent. Can you take them with you? Night Sorrow nodded. In fact, even if Yi Wuyo didn't say anything, Night Sorrow would ask. Yi Qianhua was previously unable to enter the king's realm because of some restrictions. Now, the situation inside and outside the Nine Regions world had improved. If he worked hard, he would have a chance to enter the king's realm. Night Sorrow also asked Aoi and Yang Lei to go to the Medicine Valley. He asked his senior brothers if anyone was willing to go to the world of Samsara. Night Sorrow had always remembered his senior brother's care when he was young. If there was a chance, he would definitely not be stingy to help Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow rested for 2 days. Yang Lei and Aoi came back, followed by Imo Chen and Chu Lingfei. Seeing Imo Chen, Night Sorrow was very happy. He went forward and gave Imo Chen a hug. Among the 12 senior brothers, Night Sorrow and Imo Chen were the closest. It was Imo Chen who took him out to train and cared for him a lot. 13, I miss you. We haven't seen each other for a while. Imo Chen knocked on Night Sorrow's shoulder and said, I miss you too, but there are too many things to do. This time, we'll have more chances to see each other when we go to the Nine Chong Pagoda, Night Sorrow said. Then Night Sorrow told them about the current situation. He also said that Yu Yangyu and the others were not willing to go. They planned to develop Danding Peak at the Tianding Gate. Everyone has different goals. Maybe this is what Master and the others want. We can't force them. Mo Chen said. I know. If there's nothing else, let's go. Night Sorrow nodded. Now that the Nine Regions world was stable, they were competing with the outside world. Increasing their strength was especially important. A group of people using the teleportation array would cost a lot. If they used someone else's teleportation array, they would have to pay more spirit stones. Night Sorrow was the realm lord of the Nine Regions world and the city lord of Seven Night City. Therefore, he only had to pay the cost of using the teleportation array. Night Sorrow also said that before it was open to the public, the teleportation array would only be charged the cost. After reaching the Nine Chong Pagoda, Night Sorrow called Fei Xiu and He Chiu to the training ground. Then, he set up the time pagoda at the side. The members of the god-slaying team were also gathered here. Yi Shan had gathered everyone here because he had something to say to them. First, Yi Shang introduced everyone so that they could get to know each other. I want to say a few words. After entering the Nine Chong Pagoda, everyone will be one family. We will share honor and disgrace together. Night Sorrow said. 6th update. Chapter 1134. Night Sorrow looked at Shenhan and said, This time, I've brought my brothers and family who have gone through thick and thin with me. They will be living and cultivating here in the future. I hope that Captain Shenhan can give them some pointers. Their talents are not bad, but they have only cultivated for a short time. What they lack is guidance and experience. Your subordinate understands. Shenhan nodded. His eyes were fixed on the members of the god-slaying squad. He could see that the members of the god-slaying squad were very young and had great potential. Chief Steward this is Jun Xuanji. He once managed a world and is a capable person. In the future, he will cooperate with you to manage some things in the 9 grand floors. After all, he is familiar with the people I brought. Night Sorrow looked at He Chiu and said. Your Highness, don't worry. Your subordinate understands. He Chiu bowed. Xuanji, you must be respectful to Chief Steward He. Knight Sorrow looked at Jun Xuanji and instructed. Jun Xuanji nodded and bowed to He Chiu again. Now, let's talk about resources and cultivation. The pagoda behind me has the effect of accelerating time, up to 10 times. However, the consumption is as high as eating spirit stones. I can think of a solution to the shortage of spirit stones, but the most important thing is that we cannot delay everyone's cultivation. Captain Fei Xiu, Captain Shenhan, each of you will be given 10 spots in the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda. Those who have performed well and have high potential, such as the Qing Emperor's Guard and the City Guard, can enter to cultivate. Knight Sorrow pointed at the pagoda behind him. Accelerating time by 20 times consumed too much energy. Only when he was in a hurry would Knight Sorrow let Shao Kong accelerate time on the top floor. Your Highness, can we enter to cultivate? Shenhan's eyes lit up. You, Fei Xiu, and Chief Steward He can all enter to cultivate. However, remember one thing. You must arrange the matters at hand properly. I don't want to see any mistakes. However, it's better not to enter for the time being. There are too many things to arrange and deal with. Knight Sorrow looked at Fei Xiu and the other two and instructed them. Fei Xiu and the other two bowed. They knew that this was an opportunity. It was very difficult to cultivate in a state of accelerated time. Genuine Chief Steward He, profound secrets, you two make the arrangements. The 9 grand floors will be accepting king pills and king artifacts. You can customize them according to your requirements. As for the price, you can decide for yourselves. Also, there is one more important matter. Uncle Xia's instructions in the 9 grand floors are equivalent to my orders, Knight Sorrow said to everyone. After giving his instructions, Knight Sorrow said that there would be a banquet in the garden next to the martial arts practice field for everyone to get to know each other. Knight Sorrow returned to his study, followed by Summer City. In the past, he was Qing Emperor's shadow. Now, he was Knight Sorrow's personal bodyguard. Uncle Xia, is there anything I need to add to my arrangements? Knight Sorrow asked as he brewed a pot of tea. Your Highness's arrangements are very good, but your Highness is personally refining pills and refining tools. Isn't this too tiring? It will also delay your Highness's own cultivation, Summer City asked. Our 9 grand floors has just risen. Resources are the biggest problem. I will accept refining pills and refining tools. I can more or less earn some money. In addition, I can improve my proficiency and experience in refining pills and refining tools. When I have free time, I can cultivate my combat skills, Knight Sorrow said. Summer City nodded. He knew that Knight Sorrow's arrangements were right and reasonable. What the 9 grand floors needed now was to accumulate resources. While Knight Sorrow and Summer City were talking, Fei Xiu and Shenhan arrived. Each of them brought someone with them. Your Highness, this guy is suitable to cultivate my cultivation method. I want to give him some pointers. If he is suitable, I want to accept him as my disciple, Shenhan pointed to Ren Tianji behind him. Okay. As long as he is willing, there is no problem, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. Commander, Senior Shen is willing to give me pointers. Ren Tianji is more than happy to. Ren Tianji bowed to Knight Sorrow. In the reincarnation world, don't call me commander. Only the Legion commander is qualified to be called commander. Knight Sorrow shook his head. Pass down the message. In the future, except for your Highness's elders, everyone will call you your Highness, Summer City said. After hearing Summer City's words, several people in the hall bowed. Captain Fei Xiu, Captain Shen brought one person. How many did you bring? Knight Sorrow asked with a smile. At this time, Liang Yu, Yun Huang, and Ling Long were behind Fei Xiu. I have a few more, but I can't. Otherwise, I would have brought all of them, Fei Xiu bowed and said. Ling Long, who did Captain Fei Xiu choose? Knight Sorrow looked at Ling Long and asked with a smile. Captain. Your Highness, Senior Fei Xiu chose Ning Yun, Qiyue, and Nian Shao. Ling Long cupped her hands and said. Knight Sorrow turned his head and smiled helplessly. Fei Xiu's eyesight was pretty good. He was trying to poach all of his people. Your Highness, what's the situation? Summer City asked. Uncle Summer, Ning Yun and Chiue are my disciples. Yin Yan Xiao is my younger sister, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. When Knight Sorrow said this, Fei Xiu felt a little embarrassed. Summer City reached out and pointed at Fei Xiu, not knowing what to say. Captain Fei Xiu, how about this? It's fine if my two disciples are stubborn, but my little sister has cultivated well with you. You can take the 4 of them. Yi Shang made his decision after thinking for a while. Okay. Your Highness, don't feel sorry for your younger sister and find trouble with me. Fei Xiu bowed. Don't worry. A strict teacher produces outstanding disciples. I know this. Also, make some arrangements. There are so many brothers in the Qing Emperor's Guard. Each of them will lead 1 or 2. These brothers have always fought with me in the 9 regions world. Their aptitudes are pretty good. Also, I hope they can achieve great things, Knight Sorrow said to Fei Xiu. Your Highness, I understand. Fei Xiu nodded. At this time, a guard came to inform Fei Xiu and Shenhan that many people were going to become Knight Sorrow's personal guards. Fei Xiu and Shenhan went down. Knight Sorrow's recruitment of personal guards had caused quite a stir in the Qing Emperor's city. His Highness's personal guards were treated extremely well. Their salaries were all given to the Qing Emperor's palace. Within the Qinglin Palace, Crown Prince Qinglin was wearing a Qilin robe. He narrowed his eyes and pondered. He already knew some things about the 9 layers building. Seeing Knight Sorrow grow, he couldn't control it. Then, Qinglin made a decision. He arranged for people to attack Knight Sorrow's 9 layers building. When Qinglin called for people and made the arrangements, an old man in a green robe appeared. The old man was wearing a long robe with cloud patterns. He had a crown on his head. His long, narrow eyes flashed. He was Qing Emperor's master, Shengguanhong. Your Highness, you can't do this, the old man said. Master, if we don't make the arrangements now, we will be passive in the future. Qinglin stood up and bowed to the old man. The one following him is Summer City. Do you know who Summer City is? Your Highness should know that no matter how many people you send, they won't escape his eyes. The result is that they will be killed. Then, there will be an irreparable crack in your relationship, Shengguanhong said. Do we have any way to stop him from rising? Qinglin asked. I told your Highness not to make a move easily. If you make a move, don't give others a chance. You have to kill them directly. Making a move now is too blind. It won't be effective at all, Shengguanhong said sternly. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.